quick statements, and then I'm here to answer any questions you may have. So I want to thank you for your time this evening. I want to apologize for not attending the last hearing of the final reading for the Section 4.3 plat. I had some conflicts. I was at the first two readings with no comment from the council. I took a risk, and apparently it didn't work. So a statement was made at that meeting that MI does not attend these meetings, and I would like to counter that to say that since July of last year, I personally have attended 8 meetings for plats with very little discussion or comments. In preparation for the June 1st council meeting in 2 weeks, I'm happy to discuss any questions you may have. We are going to have 2 issues on the agenda. The plat, again, for the 3rd reading, which you can see on the map is the black shaded area. We are currently nearing the end of development on that, and you can see that it's south of the golf course. The other issue will be the Foxfire North development plan, which is your acknowledgement that the engineering plans have been completed in accordance of the preliminary development plan, which was approved 2 years ago and approved by your staff. With regard to communications with the sales teams, I know that was brought up, and customers as it relates to the data center. I personally have been doing this for 30 years, and all builders, not just MI, deal with absolutes when discussing adjacent land use, and extra careful when discussing property that is not even immediately adjacent to our property. A month or 2 ago, KNOVA filed the plans, and the talks of moratorium started discussions internally with our sales team. And the message is that we steer clear of commitments on land use. Even today, I don't think anybody in this room knows or can tell us what is going to be on that property whenever something happens. So that lack of clarity makes it very difficult for us, and that's why we kind of avoid that discussion. Now, all of that changes with Foxfire North because we are immediately adjacent. We obviously are no fans of the data center. However, depending on timing, your moratorium, all other possibilities, disclosures and marketing materials will have to describe either the worst case scenario and or the most accurate information we have at the time we go to sales. We have started looking at what we can do on our property to reduce potential impacts. Our current timing with the 3 approvals that we'll have to go through per your code is looking like development through the winter of 26-27, which means we would be paving streets next summer and going to sales about that same time. Hopefully there's clarity by next summer, and that all gives us the ability to properly disclose and tell those people that could be purchasing in Foxfire North what's going to happen. Again, I don't think anybody knows. But we will make sure that we can be accurate in what we tell prospective customers. So with that, happy to answer any of your questions. I will be back on June 1st for the plat and the final development plan.
Well, I was the one that made the comment I think that you're referring to. And I will tell you that that was based on things that I had heard from people that live in the communities. That was, and that was my own limited experience, being here, serving on council at this point. Now that I see you here, I believe I have seen you in some previous meetings, but I didn't know who you were, so I didn't know that you'd ever come to our meetings. Now, I was the one, I think, that made the motion to table this, and it was based on 2 primary concerns that the people that live there had expressed to me. The first one, they obviously don't want to live next to the data center, and they felt and they had expressed that the proximity to that project was not disclosed to them at any point. So I guess my first question to you is, would you be willing to commit to having your sales teams disclose to current and future customers that there is likely going to be a data center within close proximity?
I think I can make that commitment, but let me check on it and I'll follow up with you. I'll know by the next meeting.
Okay, great.
But for sure, without a doubt, Foxfire North, because it immediately adjacent to it.
And at minimum,
So-
the surrounding zoning. So you don't have to you don't have to confirm that there'll be that, but to adhere to what
Sure.
the zoning is within that proximity. And you just verified to us that that hasn't been done up to this point. Is that correct?
Other than to say, I mean, we've told them what was zoned for, the sales team. I mean, most of them, a couple of them live there. We have employees there. So, I mean, they don't not know, but yes, we can make it one little bit more formal. That's what you're
The-
It
asking.
needs to be clearer than what, just saying that it's industrial or whatever. You've got to give some ideas what kind of buildings it could be.
Sure.
Well, and it's not industrial.
I know,
It's
but-
yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm
And
saying
to be
it's
fair, this isn't
specific.
just expectations on your
No,
part.
it's
This will be
not.
expectations moving forward with
No, that's great.
any other partnerships that we.
The second thing that I had a problem with was that the residents that lived there had expressed to me that they were putting up signs in their yards that said no data centers, similar to, I don't know if you've been to Asheville, but similar to what's in Asheville. And that they were being told that they could only keep them there for 3 days per HOA guidelines, things like that. Now, I think that we all can understand that what that really is you don't want people driving through their new prospective community saying, oh, no data centers, why is that even a question, right?
Well, I don't
It's
think
not
it has
good for
anything to do with the data centers. It's probably a garage sale signs treated no differently. There's windows within the HOA docs. Like a political campaign probably can be up 3 weeks before and maybe 2 weeks after an election. But the HOA has to enforce the rules. If you want me, I can get the rules, the actual
No, they
language of
posted
the
it on
rules.
their website. They posted on the Facebook page, on the community page. I just, honestly, I had a problem with you guys being so restrictive about their ability to express not wanting to live near a data center in whatever manner they so choose on their own property.
Again, like I said, we're not fans of it either, but the HOA enforces the language in the docs. And it's for the protection of the homeowners, whether it's a pink house or it's a sign. You know, that's what they're gonna enforce. We don't dictate to the HOA what to be sticklers on. They're gonna be sticklers on everything just because that's how, as soon as they let loose on one thing, it's just a trickle down effect.
So yard signs are a safety issue?
I didn't say they're a safety
So-
issue. It's probably in the docs that they can only be up for a certain amount of time, like a
So-
garage sale.
So, one, I just want to clarify this. So you're saying they need to go to their HOA, not you. It has nothing to do with you. They need to go to their HOA president. If they don't like the rules, band together as a neighborhood, because they can do that, and either vote their HOA people out or vote to change their
I mean,
HOA.
we're not
You're saying-
too far away where they'll be in control of the HOA.
So
Once
Oh,
it-
so you're in control.
We're
of
in
the
control
HOA.
today.
Oh, okay. I wanted to.
We
get-
haven't turned it
okay.
over.
So you're in control of the HOA.
Yeah, if
So
they
you're
wanna
saying
read
those are your rules. Well, I can
not my
tell.
rules, the HOA
well,
rules.
Okay,
That you said?
that you guys run.
Yeah,
it's
you
it's a
the same
said.
thing.
it's a
Right.
standard HOA
Well, I can
doc
tell
that's in
you-
every
Okay.
community.
I can tell you from residents in the community. Well, I wasn't done. That was. I wasn't done. I can tell you from people that live in that community that is not true for other signs than the data center signs.
Okay.
It's not for a garage sale sign. It's not for my political sign that I had up in those neighborhoods or other people up here. So, if the rule is going to be the rule, as you're stating, it's not the rule.
Okay.
So
Well, I will reach
so
out to the HOA management to make sure that they're being consistent.
it-
Why don't we change that though? 'Cause I don't see
We
the
don't
point.
typically amend docs, but once the community's turned over, if the HOA wants to scrub all the docs, that's their right.
But right now, you're in control of the HOA, right?
So basically, so it's a deed restriction right
It's a
now,
deed
right?
restriction.
So since it hasn't been turned over to the residents, can you partner, I don't know who your HOA association is, but can you partner with them to tell them that? Because basically, I know, I'm the president of my HOA in my neighborhood, so I know about the different warning letters, but can the HOA just say, hey, these particular signs, you know, if they get a warning after it's up for 14 days, we need the warning letter to now go up to 60 days. You know, there are things that you can tell your HOA manager who, you know, who patrols the neighborhood. You know, it's just a simple call to say, hey, these warning letters, just change the cadence of the warning letters. Or tell the residents that if they get that particular warning letter, they're not gonna be fined. So however you guys wanna handle it, you know, because as a resident, you know, when they get those letters like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a fine because I have a letter in my yard, it can be kind of frustrating for them. But if this is their right and they want to protest the data center, just ask your HOA manager that when she drives through, if it's at this house, just keep driving and look for a trash can violation.
Okay, that's fair. I will ask them.
Thank you.
Can I ask, do we have legislation that says when that gets turned over, is it like 70% full or 80% full?
Well, usually state law on platted single-family communities is 75%.
Okay, so that's what.
Or I'm sorry, it's 100%.
It's 100%.
It's 75 on condo, sorry.
Okay. So that's not, I mean, it's not something unusual for you to be doing what you're doing, or?
No, it's not unusual at all.
But even
But the
when,
dual standard.
yeah, but even when
Yeah.
a neighborhood turns over,
Yeah.
it's still a deed restriction.
And what's
So
your,
basically, it's the HOA association, that's where you have to tell that person, like for me, I can tell my person, hey, don't give that person a violation because of this and this, that's what me and my board does. So you just have to have that conversation with whoever he or she is, that when they're driving through the neighborhood, when you see the no data center signs, just keep on driving, no
That's right.
violations.
and what's your current threshold on this, on this HOA?
Yeah.
Is it through phase 4 and phase 5 will have a separate one, or is that gonna reset the
That's a
whole?
good question. I'll
That's
follow
where-
up on that.
When you said when you're getting close,
I know we're getting
you may
close on
not,
regular
right.
Fox. Well, we're platting the last section
Right.
of regular Foxfire,
Is
this
that-
4-3.
is that, remind me, is that currently zoned, is that currently within the zoning for that, or is you're going through the?
You mean
plan
Foxfire
for
North?
5? You mentioned 5, yes.
No, that was zoned in 22.
Okay.
Prelim platted, I believe, later in 22 or early 23. What we're going to be bringing to you is the development plan, which is basically the engineering plans and showing compliance with the preliminary development plan.
And June 1st is when that's expected.
I'm hoping to be here
Okay.
for June 1st for both that and the plat.
So those are the plans for technical review, it sounds like, right? That's what,
Yeah,
is that what you guys,
Yeah,
okay.
that's them.
So
the
that's when
engineering.
it goes to you guys,
I have possession
okay. But that's, I mean, that's,
Correct. Those have been submitted.
I have another question,
Sure.
and if you cannot answer it, I will not be offended if you do
And if not,
answer
I
my
can
question.
maybe have an
So-
answer in 2 weeks.
So if someone wants to live in your neighborhood, they put a deposit down, and they're building their dream home, and then they find out about the data center, what is the policy of them canceling this particular contract to get out? Because I've been contacted by a young couple, they have not moved in yet, but once they pay their deposit, they have found out about the data center, and they would like to live elsewhere. So they're not here yet.
I don't know, but I can ask that question. It's probably not the answer you want to hear. Usually when we let people out of contracts, it's for health issues or deaths, really significant changes to family status. But I can check on that.
but they could negotiate that with you in the contract, correct?
Sure.
I mean, they
Sure.
could have that ask, and if you say no, then maybe you're not their builder, would that be fair?
Yeah, that.
I mean,
that's
from
all
a
the time.
consumer, I mean, if you say no and they say you're not my builder, then you say have a good day and they leave.
And then, sir, when you respond, Dustin Fox, council president, you can get with him. I mean, you can email him, you know what I mean? So that way you're not, emailing all of us. You can do your correspondence with Dustin and you'll get with us.
Part of the moratorium that we had on our tenant was to kind of go about a process of collecting information. And I know that I have, and some of my fellow council members have concerns about I guess the morality of building homes in proximity to possible nuisance, like a data center, for example. And I was just wondering if you could maybe talk about, from your perspective, maybe how you think that the proximity might affect sales, if you have any concerns about building homes in such a close proximity to something that has unknown health.
Yeah,
effects.
I can't speak to that. I'm not going to speak to the health at all because that's unproven. As much as I've been to meetings the last 3 months in Pataska and others with 3-4 hour data center meetings, I've heard it all, but I can't speak to it. As I said, we have concerns about the data center. We clearly know we have an issue, and it will affect our marketing and sales in Foxfire North, and we're going to try to figure out, we've made a large investment, we've closed on the land, we've got to monetize that somehow, but we're concerned it's going to affect our ability to market and sell. So internally, we're having a lot of discussions about how we move forward and what we can do on our property to reduce the impact as much as possible.
When did you buy Foxfire North?
We closed on that, I believe, last fall.
Okay, and you were at the 8 meeting, so you knew what was coming before you
Sure.
bought the property?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't a surprise to you, you knew
I mean,
the challenges you were gonna have? Okay.
correct.
I don't remember, and you know, I'm sorry that I don't recognize you if it was. Were you the gentleman that came during the public process for that Jan farm and said that
not.
you were okay with the standards being presented, or who was that?
That was Josh Barkin, our division president. We've talked about, I think he spoke out against the data center pretty significantly, but
At first he did, and then he came back in. and
Again,
said, yeah.
from on this side of, from developer to developer, we try not to get involved in other people's business.
Oh, that was the other builder back in there?
No, that would have been us, but
Oh,
in terms of speaking on behalf or against other projects, we tend to
oh, I wasn't asking for that.
to not dabble into that.
I was gonna ask if your position had changed, but if that wasn't you, I can't ask.
It wasn't.
So no concerns about the health and safety aspect at all?
I guess the public's perception of health and safety issues, the actual scientific science of it, I can't speak to. But yeah, the perception is that there's issues there, and we're going to have to try to overcome that throughout the process.
Does MI do any research on, like, things that they're building their communities next to, so you just put them down anywhere?
When it's directly adjacent, absolutely. If it's in the area, we tend to not.
It will be directly adjacent to Foxfire.
That's what I said, but before we ever had Foxfire North, when it was just Foxfire, and there was, I mean, we knew what was potentially gonna happen, but again, that wasn't a concern that we were gonna be maybe 1,500 feet away from something.
Just haven't done any research into.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've been with other builders, and I know that in Hilliard, Epcon Communities building a community on Lefford Road that's directly adjacent to data centers, and they're selling houses for $600,000-700,000, and they're not blinking.
Do you have something? Just one more question.
Sure.
For the ones that weren't involved a couple years ago, at that point, you still had an option to buy that.
Correct.
And discussions may or may not have happened between you and other people about if you weren't going to exercise it, they wanted to, and if not. Is that something you can speak to, or is that somebody else?
That would probably be somebody else.
Because, I mean, when you exercise the option is when you closed, correct?
Correct.
But you had it tied up for over 2 years before.
5 years.
Oh, God, I apologize. But when the Jan farm was still the Jan farm, you had that option.
Correct.
So you've ridden it out through everything.
Yes. I mean, we still very much believe in this community in Commercial Point and want to be here for a very, very long time.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. We'll see you June 1st.
Okay, up on next business item, the Estates Exeter Crossing, here to represent or to discuss the TIF NCA circumstance, is that correct?
Who's going to draw the short straw?
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Mike Medwick of 5 South Liberty Street, Powell, Ohio, and Addison Properties. Thank you so much for having us here and having the TIF Council as well. I actually probably, Caleb has a lot more to say about it. I can talk about the TIF, but we discussed building the infrastructure around Center Crossing, the RET, the lift station, the sewer line, as well as making improvements to McCord Road, right? We're waiting in a TIS, but we can all kind of agree that everyone has to get it done. So we put together a proposal for a TIF and an NCA that does not abate any school taxes, and doesn't impact anything monumentally. It leaves the protected levies alone. And we have a proposal, I can pass it around if you'd like. I have a digital format, but you want to go ahead and get everybody comfortable with the language. It's up to you. I mean, I only have a couple of copies.
Yeah.
Again, I can send them out digitally
Yeah, if you could email them, that'd be awesome.
Because the text is pretty small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time
It's a
seeing
lot
it.
to, it looks like a lot to read.
Well, it's not that much, but, I guess what, I'll just cede to Caleb, because I think he'll do a better job explaining, and also from your TIF council is gonna come across as a third party instead of me trying to talk about what the TIF.
Before we really, can we ask a couple, so we're talking about the estates at Cider Crossing, the infrastructure and how this gets financed or how it gets paid for and how it gets divvied up, is that right?
So the infrastructure is released to offsites. We're not talking anything on the inside.
Correct.
On-site of the project. We're talking about Durrett, McCord, sewer, that has to be brought in from 104. That is exactly right.
In this, and if I jump ahead, please let me know, is there some line items or details as to what you feel that cost breakdown is gonna be for those projects, or an estimate of what we're talking about and how those shares get
Yes and no.
suggested,
So
if you will?
I can kind of do one of these and say, I think based on experience,
And that's fine.
here's what it's gonna be a Durrett, what it is a McCord.
Okay.
There is you only get reimbursed for costs that are true. So in other words, it's not like an expense report, right? Once you incur those costs, you can only apply those to it. You can't just pull anything together for it. So if that project costs $3 million, $4 million, 4.2, whatever it is, depending on scope, that's what the TIF is, and then it gets, there's a waterfall schedule, how it gets paid. And then again, I don't want to get ahead of Caleb on this thing, because there's a lot more to talk about as the NCA benefit for the village, the TIF benefit for the village as well, because there's money in the tail end of the TIF that, again, your TIF council is well more versed in talking about than I am. That's what he does every day.
Is this only to talk about the TIF and the NCA, or is is this gonna come up, cause it's tabled right now, correct?
Correct.
So is this kind of moving towards we're taking it off the like we're having this discussion and then taking it off the table? Or I guess that's something to
We're
ask.
having a discussion because this is a very important component of the project
Okay,
and how moving forward it gets financed, what the share looks like,
Right.
and actually, a ballpark figure. I would be really interested in seeing how the breakdowns are for each of those components, not just grouped together.
Sure.
I don't want to put any words in your mouth. You were throwing, several millions of dollars around. I don't want to say that that's a low end or high end, but I think being more accurate on the responsibilities or what it's looked at for the project to work out, I think is what we're.
I think last time it was up to 4 million, if I remember correctly. This one isn't as convoluted as the last one, where you're going to get bonds and our money lady's gonna have to be a pass-through for funds that make her uncomfortable. Are we going down that road again?
So, to answer your question, this has to do with a MSP and a bonding instrument, yes, that does issue a bond, but it has nothing to do.
The last time you were doing the Port Authority and those kind of things, and that made it convoluted. Are you gonna speak to that, Caleb?
Yeah.
I mean, you were involved on other projects, but I was just asking because, you and I had it out for way too long that night over this stuff, and if it's the same thing, then, it may end up again, I hope not. But, if our fiscal officer's not comfortable with it, then I dang sure aren't. And the last time, she wasn't comfortable, sir.
I think we're here to make everybody comfortable with how this works.
That's what you said last time, so I'm hoping that's the case. That's all I was asking, was we're not as convoluted as last time, please.
Well, we'll try to make it less convoluted, but there's still mechanics behind how this plays out and how it gets paid. Part of the reason we table this as well is there's a TIS, traffic impact study, that has to be updated, right? And that's also gonna dictate on what you're talking about as far as dollars and cents. We have to say, okay, well, here's the scope of McCord, right? If we gotta do this, then this is what it's gonna be. So we have to define that first, and I can get some ballparks. But as we get closer, right, we'll be able to project on it better.
Sir, am I allowed to ask him about that traffic impact study?
I don't.
He brought it up.
You can ask him.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because this wasn't what we were supposed to talk about. So that was supposed to be
We're
done.
in a
and-
we're in a
Yeah,
capital.
we're-
we're-
discussion.
Yeah. I was gonna say, we were in a special meeting before, that's what I, yeah.
That's correct.
This
We're
is,
We're not in a
okay.
special meeting,
We're
so
not in a
you
special
have,
meeting.
you have the leeway, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you. That was supposed to be turned in at application by our policy. You probably didn't know that, because last time it wasn't enforced that way, and this time it wasn't enforced that way. We have projects that are being told, sorry, it's not there, so your thing's denied. But yours is tabled. And I gave Jack a heads up in the meeting. And I told you after the meeting, sir, I said, I motioned to waive because I knew you were missing the traffic study.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the purpose of that.
Well, I told you
waiver
after the
was.
meeting, sir, when you came up and asked, but we have residents in the room that are hell-bent against it. So if I see an easy way out, I'm gonna take it. And that's what I did. It
So-
didn't work, that's okay. I want your project if it's right for the community,
Okay.
but you're being handled differently, and we're gonna get sued over how it was handled. So I just wanna be forefront that there is a problem with your process. You should be pushed back to the first step.
How would you know that we're getting sued?
I said we could be getting sued.
You said we are getting.
Yeah,
Well,
you
if we
did.
return
You
the
said
money,
we are getting sued.
if we return the money and we've held up their thing, they've told us they're gonna sue us. So if Billy Scales is
They
available
haven't
to
told
work,
me.
Yeah, they haven't told me that.
you guys told him right here.
No,
If
no,
we sue-
no.
Well,
So
if-
guess
if you
Alright.
return
again,
the money,
another-
I guarantee
Alright.
you a lawsuit's
And
gonna happen.
with all due respect,
It-
killing the project because you don't like one part of it is not how we get things done.
It's a process, sir.
It is a process and let's follow it. We have a TIS in place. It's getting updated, so that qualifies. Are there any other questions?
Well, and to be fair, that wasn't the only reason they were denied. Or I'm sorry, denied was the wrong wording, but that wasn't the only reason. It didn't specifically state you are denied because you did not have a TIS, and that's it.
They're two different processes. Those don't have to have TIS.
It wouldn't have mattered regardless because we put the moratorium in place. So either way, it would have halted no matter what. That was just, you guys didn't follow the correct process, so here is why you didn't. That's what that letter was. I think that if we're gonna sit here and talk to a developer and give them the respect that we say we're gonna give, we should not be comparing them to other projects to them. It's disrespectful.
I just wish we were all fighting for the people of the village.
Yeah.
As hard as some people up here are fighting for the developers for data centers.
I just tried to take their project away on an emergency vote that none of you understood and walked with.
Maybe they just didn't want to get rid of their
We're-
project.
We're gonna move on. If you guys want to discuss this outside, you can feel free to do that. Okay, we're gonna move on. Mike, if you're finished.
Yeah.
If you would like to have Caleb come up
Appreciate it.
at this point in time, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hi everybody. So, I am your lawyer.
I'm so glad you said that. I was about to say that.
So let's start with
Yeah.
basic.
Yeah.
I'm on I think the purpose of the discussion is really to round out a couple things that Mike said. I have been opposite of Mike in other scenarios in other cities. So I've seen the developments come forward. Opposite is how things work, right? When I represent the government, that's the private side. Part of the question that you were asking, Councilman, was about the infrastructure and the scope of it. There's really three pieces of infrastructure we're talking about here. Sanitary lift station and 4,200 linear feet of force main along Durrett is a big piece that has to come to serve this site. So that's an extraordinary cost. Dirt road, 285 feet eastbound left turn lane into the development. Of course, a traffic impact study as it's complete would give us more definition about that cost, but that's the second item. Third item, McCord Road, 3,200 linear feet of road and widening and realignment. Also, traffic impact study will give some more scope to that. Those are three things that are really what the developer is asking the village to look at. In this setting, the developer is asking for TIF financing. So that means that the village would authorize a TIF exemption for this ground only. That TIF exemption is, as advertised, Mike said it would be a non-school, which means that the schools get all of their money. Non means we keep them out of it. So schools get all their money, so that's first principle. which is usually what we look for, to have a easier TIF. We want to make sure the schools are cleared up when it's residential, so that's a good step. And then the rest of the money goes into Wendy's bucket, the village's bucket, and that is used to pay for these infrastructure costs. In addition to the TIF, there's also community authority charges. There's just not enough money in the TIF alone to get all three of these big pieces of infrastructure done. The community authority charge would be an add-on, it'd be 5 mils on those lots. And that money, plus the money in Wendy's TIF bucket, equals enough money to then go and get a third party, a lender, to come in and make a loan that pays for these 3 items. I looked at this math, it pencils, like if I were to give you a conclusion, does the math make sense? Yeah, it makes sense, and in fact, there's actually a little bit more in this math than is necessary probably, depending on what that traffic impact study says, to pay for everything we're talking about here. So what does that mean? It means that the village, after payment of the debt, would have a little bit of money every year, and then as we get further along in the debt, you'd have all the money. You'd have the back end. So this is not a very unusual setup for residential development. It's pretty straightforward. There is a bond. I'm not sure how we're going to monetize this revenue stream yet. It could be through the Port Authority. It could be through a bank. There's lots of ways that we bring the money from the world into the project. But when we do it, like with TIF plus community charge, it a lot of times makes sense to work with an entity like a Port Authority, because TIF is Wendy's bucket, community charge is actually a community's bucket. You gotta take those 2 pieces, move them into, a spot where a lender can make a loan.
But you know what she's comfortable with.
100%. And
It
what
won't be
we're
like
not
last time where it was.
That's right, and what we're not doing here, which is way different than the last time, is any type of credit support from the village. This is not a circumstance where the village has to kick in, where the village has to top off, where the village has to pay something to make the debt happen. That would be straight up, I wouldn't recommend it to you, right? So that's not happening here. In fact, I think you heard Mike quickly say there would be minimum payments on the ground, and that is because development is a little bit uncertain. Sometimes you can see a wave of lots that go forward, and you heard MI talk about it. There's a wave of lots that go forward in a year, and maybe there's a little bit more or a little bit less the next year, and you're just not quite sure. There's risk. Well, the minimum payments ensure that no matter what, hell or high water, there's enough money to pay the debt. Okay, so that means that you guys don't have to worry about paying the debt, and it means that that's good enough for the market to come in and put the money into the ground. So that's what's going on here. We're really just, the developer's request is put TIF in place, keep the school out of it, give them all their money, put a little bit more money in place with an assessment with the NCA charge, and take the TIF money and the assessment, go pay for whatever the actual costs are, actual, not any fancy number, just whatever the actual is, and then any of the leftover spillover just keeps coming back to the village.
Is there an interest rate assigned?
There will be. That'll be set by the market. It's not like something that he could propose anyway. The market will tell us what the interest rate should be, and for this type of debt, it's usually in the 5-6-ish range, 6%.
Caleb, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, of course.
How long have you been representing the village?
I've represented the village since after I represented the village starting in 21 maybe?
Yeah.
Kind of figuring out the world after KNOVA.
Okay.
That's the first time that I came to help you guys.
So have, any time just before then, or in your recollection, have we had TIFs put in place for residential development off-site water and sewer?
Did Foxfire have some off-site water?
Foxfire did off-site roads.
Off-site roads.
That's what we.
Yeah, we had there was.
So
And I did not
the
do
reason why
your TIF.
I want to try to identify a comparison,
Yep.
right? To see if what was done there or
Yep.
not. So we currently don't, and you can even answer this, Wendy, if he doesn't. We currently don't have any residential TIFs for off-site water sewer. I just wanted to make sure to see if there's a comparison or anything that we can look at, what those, and we can delve into further, that's just something I want to make sure to see where we're at with that, if we've done it, and what that looks like.
I don't think you've done it.
Financially.
I don't think you as a council and as a community have done it. However, I will tell you, the three big things that you pay for with residential TIF are off-site road, off-site sewer, off-site water. So just because it's it's one of them's road, it's not the sewer. In fact, what I usually see here is sewer.
So will this have to be a combined proposal? So it's not gonna be separated, it's gonna be one
Yep,
combined
it'll be one.
financially?
It'll be one
It'll
package.
just be two different ways of it being financed, NCA and TIF,
Yep.
correct?
Two-
But all together, roadways, off-site exclusively, right?
Yep,
Okay.
you've got the revenues, they come from two places, and they go to two different projects, but ultimately it's one financing package. We're gonna end up with a total amount that's owed for the infrastructure, and the money is gonna come from the world based on the revenues. So you won't actually owe it. It'll be these revenue streams, these two buckets that'll pay it.
So, I have a couple questions. Can you just explain, like, I understand where the NCA money would be coming from and just that tax assessment on those new properties.
Yeah.
Can you just explain for me and people in the audience who maybe don't understand how, like, what the TIF is actually doing to create dollars?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If you think about TIF, it's an acronym. It stands for Tax Increment Financing. So just start with the acronym. It's taxes. It's property taxes.
Okay.
So what do you have when you have the property taxes on the table? Well, think of a property tax pie. Think of your bill that you get on your own house. Your own house has a little set of line items that says some of my money goes to the county, some goes to the village, some goes to schools, and so on and so forth. So there's this property tax pie. What TIF does is it changes where the money goes and puts it generally into the village's bucket. Okay. Now I said the schools are held harmless. Okay. So in this particular property tax pie, it looks more like Pac-Man. Most of the pie continues to go straight to the schools. We're just talking about the wedge that's left of city and county money. Okay.
Okay.
So we divert the city and county money into a special city bucket, village bucket for infrastructure. That's what's going on.
Specifically to pay back their bond.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And specifically to pay back their bond first, but the leftover comes back to the village to administer the rest.
Through the NCA.
Just straight up the way the normal system works. Not with, irrespective of NCA, the remainder of this TIF will flow right back into the village fiscal officer's bucket.
Okay, so with that, like, what if they, put in this money, they start the project, some of the NCA money is speculative, right? I mean, because it's gonna be contingent on actually selling homes that have that NCA agreement on them.
So I think the proposal here is for the NCA agreement to blanket the entire site. So first and
Right.
foremost, if there is a lot that develops, it'll pay the charge. Okay.
It'll pay towards the charge.
Yeah, it'll pay the 5 mils against that lot. But imagine that you have the site and the first 20 lots are developed. They all have a value and they're all paying the 5 mils. But the back, however many, 150 or whatever additional lots, they're not developed yet, they're not paying the charge yet.
Right.
So that's the way the NCA charge, it just comes online as the lots come online. The risk about repayment isn't in the NCA millage, it's in that MSP, the minimum payment obligation. The developer is going to lock up the ground and say, hell or high water, I'm putting my ground and my own resources into place here to make sure that even if I'm slow on developing the lots, we'll still make the bond payment.
Okay, so they're committing to being responsible
Yeah,
for the bond.
correct. The
And
way
then,
it is.
and then
Yes.
the TIF dollars and the NCA would be responsible for paying them back.
It's really more about like a priority of obligations. They're ultimately responsible for paying the bond, like a guarantor, like a signatory on a cosigner on a car loan, right? They're ultimately responsible, but the other revenues will intervene and likely pay the full freight of the
Okay.
debt. So it's likely based on, I told you earlier, at Pencil, it's likely based on the values that they put together here, that there will be enough money in the TIF bucket, the wedge, plus the 5 mils, as it develops, that they don't have to actually take anything out.
Who's paying the interest?
The interest is off of those 2 revenue streams. So the revenue streams are much larger than the necessary. He said about 5 million. It'll depend on what the traffic impact study ends up saying. Could be 4.5, could be 4, could be 5. But just like you or I, when we buy a house, if we buy a $300,000 house, we end up paying $800,000 because we pay for $300,000 of principal. We also pay $500,000 of interest over a long period of time, right? Same concept is going on with this bond, in that if we had $5 million of costs, we were really going to end up with like $12 million going into the instruments. That 7 is really interest that goes to the investor. You're paying the investor, the world, whoever buys this, back for that. So
And who, I guess, how long would be the time period for this proposed TIF?
I think they've got this running for as a 30-year TIF, which is not unusual. I think if I'm looking at my math right, it's 30. It does have some ramp up, ramp down, which is a good sign. You don't want to use all 30 years to the max. You really want to be able to, like, only need 20 or 25 of the years to pay the debt. And that's what this is showing. In other words, again, earlier my comment was this pencils, and that's a way of saying there's more revenue than is necessary to fully pay that debt plus interest, which means that it's not going to take the full 30 years. It'll be a little shorter than that.
So would the village not be really seeing any money from the NCA as a result of this until 30 years?
Not necessarily. So in this particular model, what we have is, like, let's say at full build out, the model shows it's going to have about $140,000 a year in NCA charges coming from this section. Okay, so that's what this model says. Well, it's actually a little bit more. But anyway, what ends up happening is, because the way that debt is structured, the people who invest in infrastructure debt for Ohio communities, they don't want to just have debt service coverage of 1-to-1. What does that mean? It means $1 of revenue for $1 of debt. That's not conservative enough. They want to have $1.25 of revenue for every dollar of debt. Okay? That is because they want to make sure that even if there's a little bit of value issue, or even if there's a levy issue, we're still going to project out enough money coming from the revenue side to fully pay that $1 of debt. So there's an assumption in this model of 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. That means that, another way to think about that is, for every $5 of revenue, 4 is required for debt, 1 is gravy. Well, that 1 that's gravy will come back to the village. So it's basically recycling back out that money to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caleb, one other question. I just want to be sure that when you're talking about the NCA, we're going to talk about that a little bit later here as well.
Yep.
Or these TIFs, when you're utilizing those for projects that have been mentioned.
Yes.
How financially does that impact the rest of the residents in the area? Like, is there anything that comes from their taxes to cover any of those? Or is that why we're putting these finances in place, so it does not impact the rest of our?
It's really more the latter, particularly in this case. The most impacted party on the property tax bill are the schools. When you do a TIF like this that holds the schools harmless, they're going to continue to get the dollars just like they would from any other lot. So there's nothing that helps or hurts the school's overall finances with respect to these lots. They're new lots, so the schools might have additional kids in the district, okay? They have additional revenue to pay for those kids, right? So it's just as if there was no TIF for the schools. That's the most likely impact. If you did a TIF where you were taking the school's money, the schools might need to go to the ballot a little bit more. But here, you're not doing that. So this isn't going to make the schools any more likely to go to the ballot or less likely to go to the ballot. It's just agnostic.
Thank you.
That's the biggest impact.
All right. Any other questions for?
Am I sticking around for another piece?
Yeah, it's down there.
Okay,
Not related to this one.
very good.
Thank you for your time.
Support.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the next business item, Manic Smith Group. You folks want to pop up and?
Absolutely. Thank you all very much, council, administration. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. So we're going to cover a couple of things tonight. I've got them in order here in my notebook, so if I miss anything or if there's anything in addition that you'd like to talk about, we sure can do our best to do that, but we're going to knock out a few of these things and get some work done tonight here, so I appreciate the time and the opportunity. First of all, the last time that I was here in front of everybody, we talked about the steering committee questionnaire and selection process that was going to be put into place. I've gotten some feedback back. Do we have anything else that we need to chat about with regard to those questions or the process? If not, then what we are recommending to move forward with is that MSG will be finalizing that text and creating the online tool, as well as facilitating the sharing of the printable version so that there can be copies here. You all can have some copies so that you can bring them around to folks if you want to. You can put them at your favorite coffee shop or gas station, what have you, so that we get that word out. Is there any items that we need to tweak or approach that we want to take differently before we finalize all that for the steering committee selection questionnaire?
Are we able to get that out this week? Is that what
The
we're
plan is this week, yep. So given that there's no big rewrites or changes or additions that we need to make, I should be able to have it all finalized tomorrow. We'll get it out to administration shortly thereafter, and then we'll decide amongst the team kind of if it makes sense to try and push it out on a Wednesday, Thursday, or if we want to push it out on a Friday. Either way, though, the cutoff for when we get this published, on the meeting on the 1st, we're going to give a last warning. You know, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Heads up for everybody that they've got 2 more days to get things in. On the 3rd, June 3rd, we're going to be closing that online process. The individuals will be tabulated, looked at, and we will go ahead and make some selections. Then we're going to give you all a heads up following the selections of the individuals for the steering committee. We're going to let everybody know who was selected so that there can be a last check of making sure that we have selected individuals that align with the goals that we established, i.e. we didn't miss any relations between anybody. There's nothing that you see that could be a conflict, just to make sure that as a team we're unified in the fact that this selection is good and final and we're good to go. And then at that point, we'll do the final notification to those individuals that they've been selected, that we appreciate their volunteer for service, and we'll get with them on the starting of those meetings.
How far does family extend?
It's a great question. I would be open to discussing what council's comfortability is. Typically with things like this, you would look at nuclear and, in-laws.
I guess my concern with that here is in this small community,
Yep.
a lot of people are related,
Yep.
cousins, aunts, uncles, step family.
Yep.
Personally, I don't know how everyone else feels, I would like it to extend to that. I think that there should be no direct family member that lives in this community that you probably see on a regular basis allowed to be on the committee. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know how everyone else feels,
And
but.
I think that's what the intent was, us
Yeah.
making sure that we
Okay.
didn't, something we didn't miss because they
Well,
obviously are
I
blind
don't,
to
but
that.
I don't know everyone's
Right, well-
relation. Like I know other people know. I just found out somebody was related the other day that I had no clue about. So, So hopefully, I'm hoping the people that have been in this community and have lived here for a long time will be honest in saying that.
Yeah, and that's why we want to kind of have that last Passover after folks have been selected based on the qualifications that we discussed, just to make sure that, hey, we didn't miss a second cousin thrice removed who, you know, was disowned because of that thing that they wore at Halloween. They know what they did. You know, we don't want to make sure we sort through that.
And you could probably identify most of those from
For
being around.
a large part, yeah, given the, yeah. So we'll do our best to screen, but we'll have that last check with everybody just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. Yeah.
And then it will also be everyone from Commercial Point, like from new development, you know,
Yes.
like, okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that we discussed is, hypothetically, let's say that we have 100 people from Foxfire and we have one person from Chestnut. To make sure that we're kind of weighting those appropriately, we'll make sure that the one person from the neighborhood who said that they wanted to volunteer and nobody else did, they're going to be weighted more highly than the 100 people from a different neighborhood, because we want to make sure that we get as diverse but representative cross-section of the community as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So to finish that thought process, because I know that could be a little confusing. I'm not saying that if 100 people in your neighborhood apply, that nobody gets it. We're just saying that we're going to make sure that we prioritize getting a diverse cross-section. So, all right. So thanks for that. One thing down. Good job, everybody. The next option. So my coworker here, Bhavna, she passed out some branding options for everybody. I think branding is important, not just because it looks pretty and it gives us a nice holistic approach to what it is that we're doing here today, but it also gives an air of professionalism. It helps to immediately make the efforts that we're doing much more identifiable by looks, since we know that there's multiple planning efforts going on, even beyond our portion of Pickaway County. P3 is working on their agricultural land preservation study at the same time. So there's a lot of efforts going on, and we just want to make sure that when people look at a survey, at a flyer, at a meeting invite, they know what's Commercial Point and what's not. So I gave you guys 3 different kind of themes, and then within each of those themes are 4 different graphical representations of some branding that could be used. Obviously, all of it is directly related to or tangentially related to kind of the classic Commercial Point logo, but I'd love to hear thoughts, and hopefully we can get some direction on that tonight so that we're able to move forward with incorporating it into the survey that we put out.
Brandon, would this be something that also the steering committee would have any thoughts on, or is it something we should set forth prior to?
I would go ahead and get it done.
Okay.
That way, as we're starting our first pushes to the community, it all looks cohesive.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've heard from a couple of you, but I'll ask that we kind of just come to a conclusion, if at all possible, here tonight, so that we can move it forward. So is there?
Just to be fair, just to make sure, there are 3 different themes, and then there are 4 choices within each theme. So, in case that didn't come across.
I like to get revved up the first. Well, no matter what, I like the first logo. That's the logo on our water tower, and I feel like that's the most recognized for the area, regardless of what the saying is with it.
So, any thoughts on? Let's separate the theme first. But does everybody agree or like that first upper left-hand corner? Can we at least get in that direction? Is that okay or no? Yes. Yes.
We're not voting.
No, we're. I mean, right. Exactly. Right. I said agree. Yeah. Okay.
Conversation.
Good start there. Upper left-hand corner, I think, would be a good representation.
I'll let you know as well. That's a new rasterization of your guys' logo. So it's able to be blown up to pretty good size. And we'll just gift that file to you guys as like a freebie.
Okay.
So
nice.
Now, I'm outvoted, but I do like the one with the tree, just because if we're thinking about the village, right, and we're growing, right? And what's our future? I just think that tree there, because, you know, when you plant a tree, that tree will be there for generations to come. That's just my mindset, but Courtney, I do think, yes, that is recognizable, so.
Trish, that's okay, it was my second choice too. You're okay. I was torn. You're
And I
not
do
far.
like the theme, it takes a village,
Well, and,
because we're only as strong as all of us, you know what I'm saying? So,
and something that we could facilitate if, again, we serve at the council's pleasure, so just tossing this out there as an option. If there's an agreement that like front page, the recognizable logo, back page or secondary logo, we do the tree, it's also, that's an option.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just
Themes
sold it.
too, right?
There you go.
I mean, we can
Preferably
frame up in the back.
No, no.
Preferably not.
Close, yeah.
So are we good with that kind of first primary, secondary idea? Is that okay with everybody? All right.
Yep.
And then the theme. I've heard get revved up. I've heard it takes a village.
Rally together.
Rally together. Yeah, I mean, what do we think, team? This is the fun part.
We're
I don't
I heard
care.
two, it takes a village right there, those two?
It takes a village.
You got three right there, okay.
Okay.
See there, we just gave direction.
That's right. All right, perfect, beautiful. Good work, everybody. Okay, the next item I want to cover tonight is just this a soft kickoff with all of you in terms of what it is that we're going to be tackling together over the next year-ish timeline. So it is MSG's recommendation that given everything that's going on, given the way that our community is plugged in right now, that the process follow this strategic path. We have already requested the materials from the administration that will need to be folded into our research on the community. All of the GIS layers, all of the understanding from the engineer regarding various status of infrastructure, just all the stuff that we need to be able to put together an understanding of where the community is at today so that we can do our research. So that's going to be step one, is MSG performs the finger on the pulse research, and that also includes some conversations with the village administration as well, the village staff, because ultimately a perfect plan is one that presents a framework that makes the next person's job up here at the dais a lot easier. So when Dave stands up here and says that we've got a project that's coming before you guys and they want you to consider it and staff's already reviewed it, this plan, when well written, will give them the ability to say, we looked at this, we know that the proposal here aligns with the documented vision for our community, or we know that it doesn't actually align strictly with the wording, but the spirit of what was wanted in this space is preserved through what's being proposed here. It's going to give staff that ability to utilize it as a tool. So that's why we think it's really important to have a meeting with the staff. We've already actually got that scheduled for this week. Looking forward to having that conversation with them, just to get a good understanding of what it is that we can address through this plan. The next step will be the actual public engagement. Okay, so we're going to be selecting the steering committee. Once we have that steering committee selected, those meetings are going to be productive. We will be sitting down with them with an agenda, with tasks to be accomplished each time that we spend time together, and we're going to be getting those things done. Those agendas will create guidance that will then be brought before all of you, that will be determined on, do you concur? Can we move forward with this guidance? Do you agree that these are the tasks that you're most interested in? Do you agree that this is the way that you want to go about it? we can work through those things and keep this process on track, on time, productive. There are a lot of big items. I know that we all have a few that we're focused on right this second, but the fact of the matter is, before these were the things that we were focusing on, there were a lot of other things that we had focused on as a community. And I can tell you what, in 6 months from now, there's going to be even more things that we're focusing on. So it's my job to make sure that we don't get caught up on a singular issue or two, that we really do focus up on laying the groundwork for the future of our community across the board, across all these issues. So that'll be the public engagement. That it's not only going to include the steering committee meetings and that process here, but it's also going to include what are called stakeholder interviews, where we'll be offering the public opportunities to sit down with myself and other MSG employees and have one-on-one 15-minute interviews where they can say whatever they want to say, they can share whatever they want to share, and then we'll thank them for their time. All of that will get folded into the information that we are creating in this plan. What that does is addresses some of the things that Zeke has brought up with regards to making sure that everybody has a voice. It gives everyone the opportunity to sit down and be heard, no matter where they're at, in terms of a village resident or a township resident, or maybe we've got somebody from Pataskala who really is excited about Commercial Point's growth, and they just want to let us know that. It gives everybody the opportunity to sit down and say, hey, here's what I think about what I'm hearing right now. Here's what I'd like to see. I have these concerns. Please, glad to be heard. And that's going to get folded into the plan as well. And then probably the piece that gets the most people excited is the piece that involves a bunch of sticky notes and stickers and very large Post-its that we get to stick up on walls and draw on with the big Sharpies. So that's the open house meetings where we're going to be opening ourselves up. We'll bring in multiple planning and research experts who are specialists in what they do when it comes to whether it's natural resources or civil infrastructure or commercial development or planning as a whole. We're going to have folks here that are going to be able to be engaged, to address concerns, to answer questions, and that is really going to be the piece de resistance that moves this from something that is a conversation between few and a decent chunk to many to many. We're all going to be in a big room chatting, hearing each other's concerns, getting that community engagement and activation that is so critical to making this work. So that's the public engagement portion. We are going to have, so I already mentioned that the steering committee date for closure is June 3rd. We decided to make a couple of other things associated with June 3rd as well. The other component is going to be because we want to make sure that your voices are heard in a manner that gives everybody the opportunity to kind of think on it and mull it over, kick it around. As part of our prep for this week, we're going to be generating kind of an activity homework for the individual council members and mayor to take a look at and respond to. It's going to be prompts, questions, fill in the blanks, and those are going to serve as kind of your, as my British friends say, primer to the planning process. It's going to help us to get to know you. If any of you guys have ever seen the Stephen Colbert questionnaire, you will be known. So we're going to give you some questionnaires. You will be known. It'll give us the opportunity to really get a baseline on where each council member, where the leadership of the community is at, which kind of helps set the groundwork for these other conversations as well. Those are going to be due June 3rd as well. So that's all of the stuff specifically to the comprehensive master plan. I am also going to bring up what I have been told thus far about the need for a change order covering as a result of the moratorium that was passed. So you all passed the moratorium on data centers, saying that you need 18 months in order to study, research, and understand the minutia that is so critical to making sure that you are being good stewards of your community's resources and space and hearing out the village residents' voices. So we are, in order to facilitate that, the way that the process needs to take place is that the Manick Smith Group is your consultant. We are contracted to do work for you currently, and we have a well-defined scope that says, as part of this comprehensive master plan, we are going to deliver you these components. If this is a study, and we hope that it is, that you want us to facilitate for the village, that you want us to come alongside you as a member of the team and to perform this research, and we do feel very equipped to do so. The way that we would do that is through a change order to support the village's discovery of credible resources, credible sources of information related to data center concerns. And so what I want to make sure that we steer clear of, because there's a great, I don't know who I heard it from, but good contracts make great friends. I want to make very clear that we need to know the exact components of what it is that is being asked of MSG. Because Manick Smith Group, we're an excellent engineering and natural resource firm. We're very good at many things, but we do not pretend to be elected officials. We do not want to set policy. We do not want to construe the fact that we are writing ordinances or legislation on anybody's behalf. We are doing research into topics that then will facilitate the wise and cautious legislation that you all do. So we want to make very clear that that's what we're here to do. So from the communications that I've had thus far with council and administration, I understand that this research will generate a memo that will address the following concerns to be deliberated upon during the moratorium. So we're looking at a memo to cover these things. Power generation sources, water, quality, reuse, gray water, air quality and pollution, noise, e-waste and waste in general, light, heat, a study on emerging technologies associated with these developments, and then potential wildlife impacts as a result of these components. So that's the list of things that I've received thus far that kind of set the parameters for what we're looking at. I am open to adding and hearing more.
Can we add effects on like the river and how it will affect the river and the water table?
So
I don't mean like how they're gonna get the water.
Yeah.
I mean what's gonna happen with the water later.
Yeah, so water in and out for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Proximity to radiation, just power generation, the servers running constantly. There's hum that people talk about.
He said noise.
He did.
Yeah, he said noise.
I mean, there's a ton of moving pieces, so I don't mind the back and forth for sure.
And if there's anything that comes up,
Yeah,
we can, if you want to send them to me, I told him, I said, hey, look, let's take a couple of days, sometime in the next couple of days. If there's anything else you're thinking wasn't included on that, you can send me an email and I'll forward to him specifically anything else that's in addition to.
One of I would like an opportunity to speak to our attorney when he comes back about this too, just because a piece of this revolves around making a determination of a possible nuisance, right? And so looking into, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know definitively what those criteria are. So that was what I had expressed to, I think, the mayor about not wanting to give concrete kind of direction on that piece until I had had a chance to speak to the attorney.
Yeah, and speaking to the fact that there are many moving pieces here, what I'd like to do based on kind of reception of what I've heard thus far and having reiterated it to you all, seeing the nodding of heads, I'm going to circle back to my team and start pulling together the pieces that we know are forthcoming. If we can aim to have an official request that captures these and any other items, let's use the June 3rd date again, just for the ease of, my wife will say I'm not the best at remembering deadlines, so if I make them all the same thing, we'll nail it.
Yeah.
So June 3rd will be our deadline on, MSG is going to expect to receive a formal request for a change order for these tasks by June 3rd. It will capture everything that council is interested in hearing. We will take that. If there's any other items that we haven't already prepped for, we'll update the proposal and then we'll get it over to you all for consideration and approval.
Okay.
And then we can get the study underway. I know that this is something that our team is very excited to be able to come alongside you all and answer these questions in a data-driven, fact-based way. So,
Will there be two separate teams, or will it be one team? So will one research slow down another project, or how will that work?
no, we luckily, the Manick and Smith group has upwards of 650 employees. And so we will be able to make sure that one task does not impact another, while still making sure that they are coordinated, because I do think that that'll be crucial for the facilitation of a holistic approach to the plan.
And also to be, fully transparent, the mayor did a great job at the township meeting speaking to what our expectations were. There was maybe some confusion. Can we hear from MSG what that confusion was and how that plays into the police?
Yeah, so you're talking about the last meeting with regards to the coordination between.
Yeah, where it was
Yeah.
insinuated that you had agreed to,
Yeah.
and I heard the response, it was perfect, but
Yeah.
if we
Yes.
hear from her, if we hear from you, we can hold you to it.
Absolutely, no, happy to do it. So for those of you that either watched or were here at the land use meeting, I represented that night that I had just had a phone call with Holly from Crossroads, who had asked about, are we able to coordinate the efforts? You know, we're so glad that MSG was selected. Crossroads really appreciates you guys. We would love to work. And I said, Holly, glad to be of service. I said the same thing I've told you guys several times. I serve at the pleasure of council. What is it that you're interested in talking about? She said at that time, we just want to try and facilitate coordination. And as I represented that night at the land use meeting, I told her that I was certainly open to coordinating and making sure that our schedules were aligned so that we weren't going to cause confusion or chaos amongst the community. I said that ideally we would have the opportunity to ensure that there is clear lines of communication between the groups, but I said ultimately I'm not able to speak on behalf of the council. I said I cannot sign up my client for anything. Let me go. I said I have a land use meeting tonight. Let me go and talk to them, and I'll get back with you on that. And I had shared at that land use meeting that that question had been asked, that there was a conversation about how much coordination there could be. We talked that night about how it is important to have a strong delineation between the two efforts, because there are two separate processes going on. The village and the township are both different entities at different stages. They are seeking different things for their residents in terms of the things that come across your desk and the things that come across township desk. They're different tasks. And so I concurred that I felt like the idea of coordinating timings and meeting schedules, things of that nature, made a lot of sense. That was the sort of guidance that I heard that night at the land use meeting. If there is ever a desire to have any sort of tight coordination, sharing of resources, that's something that we're certainly open to trying to facilitate. It would be my recommendation that we try and be very clearly delineating how and why and what and to what extent those efforts are made, because very quickly you can muddy the water between who's been contracted for what, who's doing work for what entity. I don't have a contract with the Scioto Township, so you all are my client, and that's who I represent, and that's who I'm here to serve. So happy to facilitate anything that is within our contract or supports the goals that we're sharing together. But there were no promises of coordination, sharing of resources, sharing of information. There was a conversation about, if we have some of these big meetings, there's a chance that we're going to have to figure out who's going into the men's club, and are we gonna be able to coordinate those things? That was said, but I actually was putting down my youngest Izzy in her crib, listening to the meeting because that's what I do, and I actually texted Nancy and said, please get in there. I'm not sure what's being said, but that's not representative of the conversation. And luckily, she was there and able to jump in there and make that clarification, which I was grateful.
And the one other thing that I would ask for you to speak on is at the township meeting, I don't know if it was the trustees or Ms. Holly or whomever, but there was a discussion as to whether the village residents should be included in the township, since we are both. So should ours include both or just residents? I want that from your professional opinion.
Yeah. So when it comes to the surveys, when it comes to the steering committee, it is my professional recommendation that you stay within village boundaries. When it comes to the opportunity to speak at public meetings, the open house, or the stakeholder interviews, I think that a broader perspective does not hurt at those stages, because that is when you are soliciting feedback about the future of your community, the outlook of your community, what people feel about it. But I think it is very important when it comes to those whose voices are driving what ends up creating the plan that then you will have as a tool and a framework, that is within village boundaries.
And you guys weight those conversations of stakeholders outside versus stakeholders inside. That's part of your process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not going to recreate the development strategy for the village based on the resident from Pataskala who was really excited, but we will account for, like, if I've seen plans where mayors from other communities have come in and said, hey, we love what you guys are doing, keep it up. Have you thought about trying things this way? Boom, boom, boom. We've also had people say, hey, we really wish that you would have like a facade ordinance. That's something that we really, we're cleaning up our end of the town. Can you do your, there is some of that good push and pull back and forth, but all of that gets incorporated intentionally into the way that the plan comes together, because that's why the steering committee process is so important. Is because it's that local filter of the residents who this plan is serving that are screening all of these conversations, and then that information becomes guidance that then we take to you all for decisions to be made. Absolutely, Eric. So I think that's everything I wanted to touch on tonight. Does anybody have any questions for me that I missed, or anything that they'd like to discuss?
The one thing I would ask you, the people that maybe see our agreements, we're watching the meetings,
Yeah.
could you kind of quickly hit the highlights of the goals of the plan, the final finished product, what you guys will be delivering us there?
Yeah, so ultimately what gets created at the end of this is called a comprehensive land use master plan. It is a document that can cover a broad set of pillars. The pillars that we set forward in our RFP were things like the future land use, the development standards, transportation and infrastructure. I think there was one or two more pillars, but the ultimately right now, if you all told me, hey, you know what, transportation, actually not a big, it's not making us sweat a lot, but you know what we're really concerned about? Above ground pools. We are scared to death of above ground pools. We need to understand them better. We need you to make sure that that gets facilitated through this study.
Retaining walls. Yeah, retention. That's one that's, kind of giving heartburn.
Yep.
But,
And that's something from an infrastructure perspective that we can make sure that it gets folded in there for sure. And then that's kind of why it's important that we have this kind of level setting, and that's part of the workbook, or not workbook, I'm not going to give you a book, the work pages that I will facilitate for you guys is going to be, hey, here's the pillars that we proposed, rank them, tell me if there's others that you'd rank higher, so that we have the opportunity now, because what I'd hate to do is we work really hard for 12 to 14 months, we get to the end of it, we have this beautiful plan, we hand it over, and then Patricia says, oh, well, shoot, it just, yeah, it's great, but those retention ponds, I feel like we're still missing guidance on. I don't want that to happen. So that's what's so important about the level setting activities that we're going to be doing now, is it's going to help make sure that at the end of the day we reach a series of boxes that are checked that meet the community's needs. A comprehensive land use master plan can do almost anything, but it cannot do everything. So we need to figure out what ours is going to do and make sure that we know at the onset of this journey together that we're reaching a destination that everybody's going to be pleased with.
So, with that, I'll use the example of retention pond issue, because I have a piece of legislation for retention ponds that I've written up. You guys working through the how is it for best for us to continue to write and update legislation without stepping on your guys' toes as far as what you're kind of producing?
Don't worry about our toes. So what you're doing with legislation, you are, what's the best way to say this? With the legislation that you all are writing, you are responding to the immediate concerns that your community is facing, and you are taking the short-term action that leads to long-term change. What we're doing is looking at a macro scale. We are zoomed out. So if you're zigging and zagging to address your community's needs, we're looking at point A to point B on the map. So you know how on Google Earth, when you zoom way in while you're driving and it shows you every turn and but then you zoom way out and it just looks like pretty much a straight line between the points? We're going to be pulling together a plan that encompasses the big picture, point A to point B. You guys do your thing. Do the work that the community needs you to do. We will make sure that what we capture is reflecting that, but in a manner that doesn't impact your ability to do your work or future people from doing theirs. Because that's the whole point of this plan, is that it is a facilitating tool that helps make your jobs easier in the future. Cool.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I had something
Oh, sorry, Trish, didn't see your
First of
hand
all,
up.
kudos to your marketing team.
Thank you.
I'm in love with everything, and I'm really big on buzzwords. So, when you guys are using, even though if we don't, it takes a village, rally together, I think that's language you can still use, and let's get revved up. I can see the first paragraph, get revved up, to get people excited. So I just want to say kudos to your marketing team. I think they did a really good job, and I think you can incorporate some of those other words into it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. The woman who is responsible for those is named Liz Lopez, and she is one of my favorite people.
Oh, I said get wrapped up.
I will let
Do another plate.
I will let her know.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, next business item. So new community authority. We brought this up previous. You should have had some documentation. I think it was Bricker and Graydon had submitted a proposal for us to consider an NCA for the village. That kind of ties in with our discussion with these folks that we had back here. So I wanted to just kind of open it up for discussion. Any questions? Is this an item that we should look forward to moving on at this point any further? And on cue, Caleb has any questions, or is there any comment that you have related to that product that you submitted to us?
Thank you, Councilman. Would love to hear any feedback. I think this tool, as you've heard from other development sites, it's something that is helpful when integrated into new lot development, particularly because the folks in the new development need to be able to get there. They need to have sewer and water and roads on their new site, but you don't want your existing residents to be paying for their sewer, water, and roads. And so this is a way to kind of shift that burden onto, the newer lots in a way that's not overwhelming. 5 mils of property charge is not an overwhelming amount of money, but it is kind of an appropriate, shift so that the new pays for the new and the existing doesn't have to kick in and subsidize the new. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Caleb, and I know, and this conversation actually spurred this question. So I think it was Adam was here, spoke on this, and if I remember correctly, on the proposal, we have a cap of 10 mils, right? So
Yes.
if this particular project in this particular area, it looks like it may be utilizing 5 of those mills, how does that affect other areas within that NCA district? Can you explain
Sure.
how those aren't affected, but maybe just one area is, and how that decision process works?
Yeah, absolutely. So under the state's statute for these special districts, this has been in the law since the 1960s. This was because a whole bunch of hippies in California wanted to develop their own little towns out in the desert, and they were communes. And so if you don't have anything, how do you create a new community, right? So this law comes from that old tradition. It was never used until New Albany. And when it got used in New Albany, it was really for this exact same purpose. It was enhancing then the village of New Albany's ability to intake new lots. The law has changed a lot since then. That was in the early 90s. The law has allowed for non-uniform approaches to development. It used to be the case that if there was a 5 mil charge, it was a 5 mil charge across the board for every single parcel in the community district. That is not a requirement. It never needed to be a requirement for this reason. Each one of these areas consents. Property owners, before they make any lots, come along and say, we agree that these lots will be burdened by 5 mils or up to 10 mils. And so because of that property owner consent, you don't have due process concerns and equal protection concerns with the uniformity of the charge. So that's been settled law for 25 years. So that means, though, that we may have one developer who says, look, 5 is the right answer for my site, and that gets this balance for me to get my stuff done and for you guys to get some extra money. Your policy is really set by this, the NCA petition and the formation documents that we put together. Your policy allows for up to 10. That's a bit of a judgment call. Up in Delaware County, there are some community authorities that are over 10. There are many that are under, and it's really just a judgment call about what you feel in light of the overall millage level in your community, what's appropriate. Kind of that 20% of the bill level is kind of pushing it, right? So 10 is really about what that is for you.
And I think we're just looking for a fairness factor, not to, overprice any properties, just to make sure that those items that are needed are paid for by that community, right, and not burdened with the rest of our village, which is why I asked the question previously as well.
Yes, sir. And it's a leverage situation for you all, in that you are the body that determines what types of developments occur, how development proceeds, how quickly it proceeds. And so this creates a circumstance where you can say, hey, development, you're coming in, you need things from us. You want us to provide you with this municipal service. You've got to bring your skin in the game, right? This developer back here brought some skin in the game and said, hey, I'm willing to guarantee, my deal so that I can make this work. Not everybody will, and those that won't, you need to have a little bit of negotiating leverage to say, yeah, we're going to require you to, so, just think about that.
So the one that we're talking about right now, is that, I know it goes up to 10 mil, but can you have more than one? Because I know you can have different areas, which would be more than one. Because I know that, if the data centers come and there's only 5 mil left, like for me, from them, that's
Not enough. Yeah.
No, nowhere near.
Yeah.
So we make a separate one, like how would that, like,
You would-
for anything, not just that,
Yep.
even other, we can make a separate one that wouldn't, that may be higher, or,
The way that the statute works, you could amend the
and add
parameters for
more,
that
okay.
specific ground. So you
Okay.
could say, special deal for data centers because of the property tax scenario and what they're doing to the environment and all these other things. We want to make sure that we're charging X, and it can be a dollar amount. You can literally have it be $1 million charge. if
and
you
we
want.
can add that in for anything, not just the data centers.
Correct.
If it's necessary, we can add that at any time through voting, any council can do it, okay.
Years ago, communities like Columbus and Hilliard had multiple NCA districts. The law then changed to allow the municipality to be the developer of the district.
Okay.
So now you would just have one district for your whole community, and
Okay.
it would handle residential and industrial and commercial.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that way, you only have one board you gotta deal with. You don't have to deal with
Okay,
five. You don't have to
nice.
send
Okay,
staff
yeah,
everywhere. You don't have to staff up. Wendy only has to do 7 things, not 12. So,
And-
that's,
And so you can
Yeah.
set for each zone, like each area,
Correct.
you could go in and say, hey, look, these needs are different in this area. and
yes.
This area may only need 5 or 6 mills, and we want to make sure that we're not excessive. And others, because of the needs, we need to grow that.
Yep.
Fair, thank you.
Yep, and a little of that, Councilman, is this idea of like, yeah, there may be extraordinary costs in particular areas, and there may be lighter costs in other areas. Within that area, everybody needs to be uniform,
Right.
but across your community, no, uniformity is not illegal.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't remember which project it was on over the last 2 years, but you had mentioned that there are other tools that can be used. I don't remember if it was CRA or TIF, to where we can say, your taxes, so much will come to the village, so much will go to the schools,
Mhm.
and the county gets nothing.
Yeah, that's typically what ends up happening there is because of CRA, the tax abatement program.
Is that not something that would work?
It works
Better.
together. It works together. So think of it like two pieces of the puzzle. What do we do with property taxes in Ohio? We can get rid of them. That's tax abatement. We can move them into another bucket. That's our TIF bucket, right? Or we could add onto the property tax bill, and that's what NCA charges do. So when you have a tax abatement, you might take 100 units of tax down to 0. That's the negotiated abatement, okay? But in order to make sure that these people pay their fair share, don't get a complete abatement, you might use NCA charge to require 65 units of tax, okay? So abatement is kind of binary. It's either 100 or 0, right? You pay the full freight or you pay nothing. That's what an abatement is. It takes it away. Well, NCA charge can come in and help you calibrate what's appropriate from that site so that it's not just 100 or 0, it's actually 65, because that's what you need, right? It's two tools together to make your policy answers.
So I guess I may be confused in between the NCA and the TIF when it comes to this, because I thought that tool, I don't remember which one of the two of you, you had explained that it would allow more money to pay it off faster, because really a TIF is just the developer giving us a loan,
Yep.
and what the cost to us for all of the upgrades is whatever paid in interest, pretty much. It's kind of like the carrying fee.
Yeah.
So if we could do it to where the tax dollars were going to the school and bus only,
Yep.
we could pay that off faster
Correct.
and spend less money.
Yes. So that would be using CRA to wipe away all the taxes, right? All the different tax rules. Wipe away the county, wipe away the township, wipe away village, wipe away schools. That's CRA. Start there, and then all you need to do is take care of village and schools. So you use the NCA charge to just fill up that bucket, and don't worry about the rest. So it's more efficient. It can be more efficient if you want that to be your policy.
So to not put future residents that we represent now into a financial bind, wouldn't it be more beneficial for us to adjust the taxes to pay all that back and not encumber them with NCA charges above? Because I mean, our
That's a
taxes
policy
are
choice,
going
right?
way up.
Yeah. So if you use TIF only, everybody pays their regular property tax bill, 100 units of tax. NCA charge is 105 units of tax. It's a little bit extra, right? So it's like a municipal assessment. It's like an impact fee. It's saying the new site pays a little bit of the cost that everybody else is already paying for. In other words, think about the very first flush of the very first toilet in that development. It was paid for by all you guys, not the new development. NCA charge helps reverse that story a little bit to say, yeah, there's a little bit in there that helps them pay for their first one.
So could this not pencil doing it the other way? Is that why you chose to go this way?
The
or-
developer made the request for NCA charge on his site because it didn't pencil as well. It pencils a lot better, and in fact, not only does it pencil better for the lender, it pencils better for him because a little bit more helps insulate him from that ultimate guarantee.
But that could cost us more, depending on how fast the NCA refunds versus we would know about how long if we just redid the taxes to come to the school to make them whole, all of it go to us, the county gets nothing until it's over. If we do it his way and the NCA monies don't come in until sold, that's extra interest that we're paying as a village, or?
I don't think so for, yeah.
We are paying it because we get them the TIF money back with that interest included.
But he won't get it in his case.
But it's still called there.
It's cost you, it
Yeah,
costs the
I'm
village
looking at
from
the-
the bucket, yeah.
Yeah.
It costs it from Wendy's bucket, so I like to refer to Wendy's bucket because it's not everybody's bucket, it's just Wendy's bucket, right? And it's only limited to what's in that bucket that pays back the debt. It's not the village's total bucket. Not the total pool of money, it's just from here. It's a little difficult to answer your question without the actual financing terms with the interest rate applicable, but to me, it seems like a revenue where we have TIF is just not as much as TIF plus, right? NCA is like TIF plus a little bit more, and that extra little bit more puts more into the bucket, and it helps you pay it off faster, and that's a good thing ultimately because if you don't attack the problem, the debt problem, yeah, interest continues to accrue. The more you can attack that debt problem early on, the less years it takes, the less interest it costs. So having 7 mils of NCA charge versus 5 would put even more in the bucket and
That's
pay it
only
off
if
even
he sells,
faster.
right? If we hit a recession and he's not selling anything, that NCA pot's not
I
growing.
would tell you,
He's
yeah,
the guarantor though, didn't you say they're the guarantor though, so no matter what, they are guaranteed to pay the bond, just like if I like you said, just like if I co-sign on a car and they don't pay,
he's
I
put the
gotta
property
pay.
up. He put the property up.
Yeah, so
the-
if he can't, if for some reason he can't pay, well, guess what, now we got your property.
Yep, the lender in that case would foreclose on the tax liens and take over the lots. It's really, really unlikely to happen. And actually, your first issue is unlikely to happen. There being a market issue due to this millage. That's really, really,
Oh,
really
I
unlikely.
didn't mean that millage, I
Yeah,
mean just
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, for sure. You can always have a 2008. 2008 can always happen. 2008 can happen, and that'll affect everybody, and it just is what it is. Deals can go bad when that happens. The most important point about all of these setups are, if any of those things go bad, it's limited to that little Wendy bucket. They might have a problem, but the whole community won't. And that's the trick to doing this stuff well, is keeping it isolated so that it's not everybody kicking in. It's just that one site that goes down.
Caleb, isn't the difference with the NCA too, is the school would have to have an agreement? They don't have to have an agreement with the village, correct?
Yeah,
NCA.
for NCA, because it's additive, you're not affecting the schools at all, right? So the additive piece is, you can set your business without having to have that conversation with the schools about their business. That is kind of helpful for municipalities, right? Because then you can go and do your thing without worrying about them.
But, and kind of on that note, with the TIF, it's limited to basically roads, water, sewer, stormwater, correct?
Essentially, there's
I
a
mean,
few other
there
little things,
could-
but yes.
So NCA, the options for those
broader.
are much, if there's amenities that are needed at a certain area, a swimming pool needs put in or fixed.
You ever been over to Pinnacle to golf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go golf
Right.
at Pinnacle, well, the community center at Pinnacle is paid for with community charges,
Correct.
right? So everybody in that whole site uses that one thing. Buckeye Parkway, that road is the other thing that the
Yeah.
community charges pay for. So yes, can do road, but it can do that special stuff too.
Okay. Beautification, things
Yeah,
like those, if you want.
That's one of the, I don't know, the development theories about NCAs is that if you provide a little bit more of that revenue, you put more money towards these problems, people will actually, when developing, will amenitize the sites to a higher level of quality. And so go look at your areas in town that have NCA charges. It's most of Delaware County, it's New Albany, it's Pinnacle and Grove City. These are not, development areas that are of poor quality. They're pretty good. And it's in part because the developers have learned and the communities have learned to leverage the future a little bit.
Any other discussion on this? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Have a great night, guys.
Next item, I'll turn this one over to the mayor regarding a decibel reading ordinance. Would you like to have a few minutes?
Yeah, this is kind of twofold. I spoke with Dustin about it, and he wanted to kind of get the feeling before we went forward in preparation for, if we can't see these data centers as a nuisance, is setting a decibel rating. I kind of looked at Hilliard's, and theirs is 40, which is like a whisper, is what they state. So I was looking to maybe move forward with that. On the other end, Councilman Zeke and Councilwoman Patricia asked to meet with myself and the chief about the noise ordinance. Chief had some ideas of setting up some decibel readings, which we had talked about a couple of years ago, but it never really went anywhere. Around property, like so many feet, it can only be this level. That way our officers have a more clear, defined of what's expected. So I just wanted to get some feedback on that, and we can always, I can send what I have to you guys, and we can discuss it at the next CAL.
So are we trying to blanket these two together?
No.
No.
Just
Okay,
two
okay,
separate.
I'm
And
just
that's
making,
why I
just making
wanted to
sure
make sure-
because
I was
that's,
like, on the
yeah,
other hand, we
okay,
could do this.
okay.
No, absolutely.
Because
I-
I was gonna say, I don't expect a decimal whisper
No.
around.
Right.
No,
But
not at all.
I do
Not at all.
agree that both of those issues, especially for our officers, really need clear, defined guidance on the sound, the noise ordinance.
Right.
And I'm not opposed with, identifying another item that we need to do in our industrial area or,
Yeah.
those types of things at boundaries and how that looks. So
What kind of equipment is gonna be needed for them to measure the decibels?
You can get
Is it just
certified
decibel readers?
decibel readers. They can purchase. The chief and I talked about it, and and that would be what they would go by.
Okay, and then
And here's something that came up in a discussion actually previously, and this would be, if regarding this one, not the data center,
Right.
is, and ask the businesses, and they're not very expensive, I looked them up, to have an external, as an officer looking by, hey, look, if there's a phone call coming in, a complaint, and there's that decimal reader on the outside, and they're concur, then write a citation. If it's not, then they can say, hey, look, the noise must be coming from somewhere, or maybe they aren't gauging it. Any particular tool that gives them the benefit, I think we can
And I know
look into that as well.
when this came up 2-3 years ago, Eric,
I think too, it was my first year, so 3 years ago.
the businesses were happy with that. I mean, they welcomed it because it would give them something to
Right.
go on as well. So
Yeah.
I just think that's something to look into and work together on that. If you talk about it at the CAL, I can have the chief write up something.
have any
There's
of
any
us been, I know you talked about using Hilliard as the standard. Have you or anyone up here been and stood at one of those houses next to the Hilliard data center?
I sat right next to the data center. On the road next to the data center.
Which one?
Hilliard.
Okay. And you felt like that was sufficient? The 40, I mean, that's my thing, like, I don't wanna measure, just give a blanket standard because they made it a standard and say
No.
that's our standard.
I looked at
without-
decibel readings and like the normal, like us talking right now is probably 70 to 80 decibels.
Well, I mean, I've seen videos, live videos
Yeah.
from people in Hilliard at their house. It's not a whisper. So that's my concern. It's not a whisper. It's a hum that is distinct. So I think before we put anything in place with a number on paper, We need to make sure that we are experiencing it, know what we're putting in, to say like, yes, this is the standard we want for our community.
Yeah, that's why I brought up in conversation.
Yeah.
Buy a couple of decimal meters and have them at school.
Yeah,
Centers
yeah,
ourselves. and
yes,
take decimal
yes.
meters.
Or maybe that's something, if they're doing that research for us, they can
Take
do or
Yeah,
whatever.
Just say
That would probably go in with the noise.
Because the vibration harmonics does not measure high on the decibels. It does, so if you're doing vibration and then you won't hear that, you'll feel it more because of the compression of the sound. So
Okay.
you won't, it may not reach 40, so that may be another consideration that during this process that we have,
Yeah.
we have to have
Brandon
considered.
shaking his
Yep,
head,
yep,
yeah,
exactly. Yes, yes.
But I've been looking at, Loudonville
Sure.
and a few more, just reading what they do. So,
Uh,
just something to
I-
talk about
I
at the
think a
next
couple of
cow,
those,
not,
a couple of those issues, and we can
yeah. So
definitely
maybe the
move
next cow, we can divvy those out in two different issues.
Sure.
I can get something from
Yep.
the chief and
Yes. Yeah, if
try,
you-
try and tighten it up for our officers
Yep,
and.
I totally agree. And any tools that we can get, and if there is any buy-in from our local businesses, if they are, like I said, the external ones, just as a secondary for their own
Right.
measure, right? So they have something that's defensible for them,
Mhm.
and they can set the standard, so they can tell their customers or whoever comes around there, hey, look, don't get us cited. So,
Right.
okay.
Dustin, if I can talk about the previous councilman, Holdren.
Ralph.
Yeah, when he was here, he had talked about the difference, and when he and I went to the establishment that was having a bike night, he was explaining to me the low frequencies, high frequencies.
Right.
And when I was doing my research over 28 months for these data centers, I took his information and I went up and I sat with the decibel reader. The last meeting, I took a reading in here, and when Scott O'Neill was talking, it was 79.2. When he wasn't talking, it was, I believe, 59.8.
You're not calling out Scott, you're just using him as a
Yeah, that
reference,
was
right?
just
Okay.
who I
I
opened
just
it
want,
up,
just
yeah.
wanted to be clear. Okay.
And the tier 4 generators, when I was doing it, was the only thing available. And the best performing one in the United States was 50 decibels at any property line at any level. And I think it was 50 decibels low frequency at the property line. And that's what I put in originally for our data center thing. But that's what that was based on. But now there's tier 5. I don't know what those standards are. I know that tier 4 would meet, I think was the one in Oregon, it was 50 decibels at the property line. Now, I don't know if that was their property line or somebody else's property line. That I don't know. But I will say that if we would do that across, Courtney's correct. I mean, we're gonna have complaints against everybody because 50 decibels is nothing.
Right.
So.
And that wasn't my intention.
No,
Yeah.
but I just wanna say that's, we need to figure out, if we're gonna have them take decibel readings, is it at the property line? Is it, we need to make sure we define that,
Absolutely.
because it is possible for us to cost a business money inadvertently. And I don't want the hard feelings that there was when we spent how many weeks to change 18 words.
Well, and I don't think the across the board thing, and that's why I think we were making sure of, if we're talking two different words, I think the subject is decibels, right? The standards for data centers or industrial area, right? So if we're doing that, plus any entertainment, outdoor bands, music, things like that, maybe two different
The other
items.
thing Mr. Holder brought up is when he does sound for bands in other places, and I don't quote me on this, but I believe he said that they're handed a standard sheet from the local place, and at any time that they're above that, they have to shut it down, and the sound guy or somebody can get fined. So
We can, if we need
I
to
mean,
reach out
I
and
think he
ask.
would be an asset to bring in, to speak as to, because he had a good plan.
Right.
He just ran out of time,
Sure.
to
Yeah.
adapt it, but those were just things that I found over the last 28
Well,
months.
and you live near some of those areas too, so I mean, we want to be fair for, the residents, not just you, but any residents that there are certain expectations, right? And and I think he said it's over a period of time, like over several minutes. It's not like it spikes and valleys, right? Because you're going to have those. You can't.
Well, and you have times when they can and can't run the things
Right.
and all that.
And I think sometimes even the external meters can pick up external. And my thought was, and maybe now we're going to ask the officer, but any of the motorcycles that are revving or they're high pitched for exterior, if you have an officer sitting there say, hey, look, you're well above where you should be, for this.
Well, you're
Right.
talking about the holding. I just want to make sure.
Or radio. I heard a big pack of them drive by the other day. They had the radios blaring.
Well,
I'm
right,
like, okay,
but
we
we're
might get
not-
some complaints about.
Right, but you're not saying
No, it picks
for
up
the
also.
bar
No.
to.
Oh,
Okay,
no, no,
that's
no,
what
no.
I was like.
I'm
Okay,
just
we
saying
cannot
that.
do that.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
those external can be
Yeah.
a reference. Can be a reference
Yes,
point. Is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, but an officer say, hey, look, guys, you need to tone it down, right? I mean, they're not there to write for everybody doing this. Like, look, you're 120 here. We got people sleeping. Let's be reasonable
Honestly,
here.
if the businesses don't want to, the village could insure the cost to put the decimal meters on any village-owned building. We have, that would put one in the center of town, that would put one here. We could put one at the water tower place if need be. And that way, we're not asking the business to incur another cost. And then when they're going around, if they've got fireworks going off like the other night, they can see, well, it's registering here, but not here. It might help them find. I don't know how expensive that would be, but
It's worth the conversation, and again, hopefully, setting standards and accountability. So, okay. If we're good on that one, we'll move forward to the next. Next one, the discussion on amending ordinance 2026-10. Mayor, you brought up one issue that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I just had a question for Eric. I was looking at both.
which one is 10?
This is the
Please
one,
remind me.
this is the one where you're, repealing 117102. Prohibiting new data center uses, establish limited non-conforming use provisions for specified properties and declaring emergency.
Yes.
Remember that one? Okay. Now, I was looking at like a past one you had done versus what was finally voted on. And I don't know if you changed it or they changed it.
I can answer that. The legislative process changed it. I wanted to keep it whole. And the legislative process said those changes needed to be done so it could align with the data center moratorium.
Okay.
So that was at my leading the process through the legislative process. Those items were removed because of that advice. Not
Okay.
because that's what I wanted, but because that advice, and it would make the two things work better together. And I was told that the standards and such were better used at the negotiation table or the MSP, I believe is what I was told. So any
Regarding the
changes.
megawatts, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, any
Megawatts? Okay.
changes were because of the legislative process and the advice given to make sure it matched
Okay.
with the moratorium.
I just, there's a gentleman that lives in the community that builds these, and we've met a few times, and we were looking at this, and he's like, this would be 3 instead of 5 megawatts.
Yeah.
This would be perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
I would,
I
along
have-
with the other changes that we've already made, he said, this, I would feel comfortable.
I look at it as 5 pillars of data centers, and those address all 5 pillars. And when I was coming up with those, I listened for 28 months, what people wanted. I went and I found actual data centers that meet each one, so I know it's possible because it's currently happening.
Okay.
But the legislative process removed all those. So I do have a resolution to lay over if at any time we want to. And it's basically just those standards in a resolution for maybe administration to show to any industry and say, hey, these are the type of standards that we want. Apply these to your industry, and it could be a part of that welcome packet that, that Mr. Hill's working on.
Sure.
Because I did send these to him, full disclosure, beforehand, and he declined to look at it because we hadn't hired him and he didn't want to muddy the process. But I sent it to him because that's his specialty, natural resources and that stuff. So he's aware of all those. I don't know if I need to resend them now that you're hired or not, but I mean, he does have a copy of those exact things, Mayor, and I agree.
Okay.
Those definitely need to be, because that would put us to the tier 4 standard.
That was my only question. I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
know how
absolutely.
that got changed.
Legislative process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, moving on, emergency language, Matthew, right? So I asked Matthew if he would make sure, we had some questions our last session regarding the emergency language, our appetite for use, when to use it, what's appropriate. So I asked Matthew if he would indicate by code what the emergency language means when it's used, and also waiving the readings and how those can be put together. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
would you mind doing so?
Not at all. So basically, under the code, there's sort of two separate mechanisms. One is the emergency mechanism, which is used to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare. Typically, those are used when action is required on a more immediate basis. It allows the legislature, the ordinance or the resolution to take effect immediately. And unfortunately, the idea behind the breadth of the legislative language in allowing those measures to be passed is broad. It's to ensure that you all, as a legislative body, have the authority and the ability to say, hey, this is an issue that has come up. We need to act quickly to ensure, proper amount of funds are in one of the line item accounts to ensure payment to a vendor, or, there's been some kind of emergency to the citizens that poses a threat to, again, health, safety, public welfare, which again, all very broad. The idea being that then you as a legislative body can decide, discuss, to say, we think that this is something that requires your action faster than the 30 days. That is separate and apart from the waiving of the rules for reading, to waive the reading, the three different readings requirement, which just allows it still has the 30-day period before an ordinance can be enacted, during which a citizen can come in and challenge, not necessarily challenge, but can review and bring up additional concerns to council before it's enacted. But it also allows you all to move a little more quickly, as opposed to having to wait almost 2, 3 months.
3 months.
Basically 3 months before an ordinance becomes enacted. Different standard, doesn't necessarily have to address public health.
And the vote standards are different on those two, right? One's a
Yes.
quorum of the president and one's of the body, or is that?
So that's a different issue. I know that
Oh.
that's out there.
Okay.
No, I
No, I
don't
was-
think so.
Because you said they were different things. so I didn't know if that was-
They're different standards as far as one is the suspension of the rules. The other is there is an emergency that you all have defined needing to pass an ordinance to take effect now, as opposed to waiting 30 days. That's all.
But even if we waive, there is still a process that the public can go to the court and challenge our use of emergency language and still get it taken care of, correct? So we're not taking away all of their options, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember what it's called, but they can file with, I don't know if it's Common Pleas or whom they go to. Well, it's where they say, hey, I think they abused the emergency language, and the court decides. And if it's considered that it didn't meet, then it's undone right then.
So here's the thing again. This is where separation of powers becomes an issue, or I wouldn't say an issue. But this is where it comes into play. So if as a legislative body you all have made a determination that there is an issue, and you include that language explaining what that basis for an emergency is going to be, the court's not going to overrule it. Because they would otherwise be undoing a legislative determination. It's not the court's role, and there's several cases, there's a little bit of case law out there that helps provide that explanation, and I'm happy to send it along to whoever would like. That basically says, as long as the legislature has explained, or as long as the legislative bodies have explained why they have deemed something an emergency and why something is impacting the health, safety, and welfare of the community in enacting it, that is sufficient to comply with the statute.
So can the emergency language be used for any legislative action, including something like zoning?
Again, if you all have deemed and determined that it is something that impacts the health, safety, and welfare of the community, then it can be used.
What if you can't?
What do you mean?
Well, what if you use it, but you can't give a justification for using it, but you used it, or no justification was given?
So that's when a challenge from somebody would typically challenge the, would be the constitutionality, but basically they would challenge the validity of the action. It wouldn't be a constitutionality because it's based on a
Right,
statutory
right,
claim,
right.
but it would be somebody bringing a lawsuit against the city to try to undo that ordinance.
Is there a time period that they have to do that? Like,
I think it's 2 years is what Bill said.
Yeah, I 2 years sounds right. I can't recall exactly the ordinance, but it sounds about right.
I think so,
Now again, there's many things that go into why they're challenging it, the basis of what they're challenging, if they have standing to challenge it. All of those things are things that the court would have to decide if it's been filed timely. Typically though, a lot of what is reviewed and what courts will recognize is that when it comes to referendums, when it comes to ordinances, the way to correct that is through the political process, through, having somebody file a referendum, or, make a ballot initiative, or, challenging somebody's seat to council. It's because typically it's considered a separate process. So you've got the judicial process, but then you also have the political process. You've got the executive branch, legislative branch.
so in this hypothetical, just what if say there was emergency legislation passed, I don't know, about zoning, and the people did go in and elect new representatives, what tools would they have to correct that abuse of the emergency powers on the zoning or improper zoning of property?
Now, I have a feeling that this hypothetical is hitting home for some people.
I've just asked what he's asked.
Yeah,
When we passed it in 2024, our emergency was that the information we had in front of us, and if I'm wrong, Nancy, please correct me. The information we had in front of us was what culminated after whatever was done outside of here by residents and the K-Nova people. They came back in and they said, we felt as a body that they said that moving forward with a single campus was the best thing. And when we asked, we were told that the way to lock that in is to do it by emergency because you are protecting their health, safety, and welfare with the facts that are there today. So that's the hypothetical.
Well, while I appreciate Councilman Magister confusing my hypothetical even more, do you think that you could answer my initial question?
So I believe your initial question was, what can a current sitting council member do to try to undo a zoning ordinance that was passed by a prior council?
Right. Or a new council do to right the wrongs of the previous council.
So the council as a body is going to be the same body that acted previously. And that's where you get into issues with takings, with the having rights that were vested previously to a landowner potentially coming under attack. One thing that the legislative body does not control is what private citizens do.
So what options would be available to private citizens to?
As I said, there's several statutes that allow them to, and I think you all are well aware of what those statutes are. I believe, again, it's 2 years to challenge, to bring a lawsuit challenging I believe it's the procedural process for enacting an ordinance. So.
I can tell you, it must be 2 years, because I think the coalition's website says that they have until like the 20th or something, I think is what I saw, if they wanna challenge it. That's another reason I figured it was 2 years, because what Bill said.
A private citizen acting is different than a legislative body. And normally, you can have a legislative body, repeal a prior ordinance, but that does open them up to litigation.
The people change, the body doesn't change. So that's where the conflict becomes.
And that's-
just because it's different people serving on the body doesn't change what the body has done.
And again, sort of as the sitting in the solicitor role, the goal and the obligation and the duty is owed to the body, not the people. And so if a prior body passed a law, there's an obligation to defend that law until the body repeals that law or that law has been deemed invalid by a court. And I think that's the hard thing for a lot of people is it's a body that you're on, it's not, and even if you want to do things to change prior action, oftentimes you are then working within that structure of you're the same body that had passed it previously. And so you're going to be limited in what you can try to do without subjecting that body to legal action.
Could we perhaps say pass an ordinance that would restrict that limit the use of that emergency language moving forward?
Well, so I'm gonna get to this point real quick, and I'll tell you this. I know we're going to be coming up on this type of legislation regarding emergency language. I do know that Councilman Nungaster, within one of his pieces of language or legislation, does have a component in there that requires or requests justification
I
for
had to
that.
remove it because the solicitor said it could open us up for further legal things when Zeke asked him last meeting. So I
Okay.
think the copy you had,
With
that
the-
makes Matt
with-
belong.
Okay.
Because he said that he would not condone that because putting it ahead of time could open us up for further litigation. So the legislative process, I removed the emergency legislation. And basically what it was where if we have something going through in our program that's gonna happen, it automatically hits the public, anybody that signed up, it flags that, hey, there's an emergency coming up. And then when we did it, not only is the justification attached, but an initial thing for each council member to say they either voted yes or no. If they voted yes, then they agree with that. If they voted no, they don't. And we were gonna make that a standard piece for every legislation with emergency so that it's already there, so if it's re-questioned, it can't be. And our advice was on the record that that was not a good idea, so it was removed via the legislative process. So that's what he's speaking of.
Right.
Without putting you on the spot, would you like to speak on your personal thoughts on that?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that.
Don't get me wrong, I would love to, but no.
Sorry, Dustin, I just
No,
wanted
that's
to
okay.
make
No,
sure
I'm
he
glad.
understood.
Thanks for the clarification because that was
Yeah,
that's
it was
a
just
component
removed.
of making sure that.
I still have it, if you guys want it to put back, all we gotta do is reintroduce it.
I think if the legal obligations are counter to our interests, then we probably.
Again,
So
ideally
can
the
we
statutes.
make that make sense for me? Like maybe I'm not understanding why would there be a legal issue with us setting a higher standard for emergency legislation?
So that's exactly what you're doing, is you're creating a standard that is not currently imposed by the statute as it is written. The statute as it is written is presumed to have been done so for specific reasons, mostly to ensure that you all as a body have enough discretion and the ability to address emergencies when they arise. And if you start increasing that, then you can shoestring or hamstring, thank you. It's been a long day. Hamstring a future council. So you could have then a situation where there would be a very clear emergent situation that for whatever reason that process, that higher standard now prevents the future body from being able to act, and you could very easily get yourself an additional.
There was a carve out for any legislation that comes out of process. So that would be different, that didn't have to have that.
Again, legislation that comes out of a process means that it's taking time to go through that process.
There was a carve out, so.
But
So, long story short, there's nothing that we can do to correct the wrongs that came about in the past as a use or misuse of the emergency powers, and there's nothing that we can do right now to limit ourselves or future councils from also abusing that same power similarly.
I would say a few things to that. One, your uses
It's a great remedy.
of always endeavors, and those are never gonna. It always depends.
Know who you're
Two,
electing.
Two, if it comes to actual conduct that's been, currently discussed in that issue and potential legal issue, I'm not going to discuss that outside of an executive session. I'm not going to provide attorney-client privilege or attorney-client communication as to that. I would just caution everybody when you try to ask such a broad question, because it can be interpreted by people in very different ways, and I think it's more beneficial to be very specific and shorten down the questions.
So a system that would automatically notify people of that could be a way to, at least because what we've heard is, the public is not aware when these things happen because they have lives. But we have in front of us a situation to where it will track, and if that emergency language is checked, then everybody will know. So if they don't come to the meeting where those are discussed, years later, they would have known.
I'll put a pause. We have a couple other things
Yep.
before we get to that, so save up what you're
Oh.
gonna say, cause you'll have time to talk about that. That's,
Well,
so
and I
don't
was
waste-
going to say, that is not a question for me. That is a question you can ask your council members to make a political decision on how you'd like to go forward with that.
So, but from legal side, that wouldn't open anything.
Oh, I think it still could, yeah.
Okay.
Anything can open a legal
Well,
issue.
as Bill always says,
It always
anybody can
depends.
sue for anything.
Exactly, like that's, so I can't say yes or no on that, but
Okay.
that's definitely a question for you all to discuss.
Thank you, Matthew, appreciate it. Thanks. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to the America 250 celebration. Mayor wanted to make sure we have this conversation.
I'm gonna make this short.
Yeah.
There's a lot of celebrations going on around. I spoke with Elizabeth Furness with Pickaway County Visitors Bureau. The best time to do this is probably in August, late July, because a lot of places around already have everything booked up. So I would love to do like a picnic style family, cook some hot dogs, have some symphony band that people use that plays patriotic music. We talked about a parade, Dustin wants a parade.
Well, trust me, one of our residents mentioned it, so I'm
Yes.
not gonna take credit for it. I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
a great
It
idea.
would be cool.
Dress up the golf carts with, yes.
There's some reenactments, there's places I can come and have one-on-one things with kids to show them how they used to do things back in the day. So, but in order to do this, I need volunteers. So if we wanna move forward with this, I've gotta have a commitment from people. So that's my question.
I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to commit not knowing what my health will be then.
Okay.
I don't want to commit and then
I
have to
understand that.
decommit. If I'm healthy, I will help. But my other thing is, since we have the homecoming that's doing a big thing, and we have July 4th that's doing a big thing, why are we creating our own? I guess that's,
Well, cause it was asked.
I understand that, I just.
Yeah, I had it planned on because I know they do the fireworks back there. Asheville does their fireworks over there on the 4th of July. Someone said, why aren't we having our own? And that's why I didn't want anything huge. No fireworks, nothing like that, just something.
Is it something that we can, I know we have the car show in the first part of August, is it something we can like supplement? Is there an additional component to that?
And we
to-
thought about adding it to a farmer's market too.
Okay, I'm not,
I like the car show.
I'm just saying,
If
is there-
Jimmy's okay with it.
right,
that's-
we don't wanna
I mean, that's
compete,
yours
but
and
can
his, right?
can we add on, I mean, just, and again, I'm just saying, if you're drawing people for one particular reason,
Yeah.
is there something additional that we can provide to them as a
That draws
celebration?
a lot of people in.
It certainly
get
does.
with,
It does.
you
With
and
Jim.
you and
Yeah.
Jem and.
I think, I
and
mean,
Steve.
we should bring in all of our food truck, I mean, just make that an all-day thing. Have it a food truck thing, have it the cars, one year we brought in what was it called, Flags of Honor or something, had a big
Yeah.
ceremony during the car
Yeah.
show.
I think that guy retired.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he passed it on to somebody else or
Yeah.
something, but But I mean, that car show is the biggest draw.
It is.
It's the biggest community thing. There's already a band. I mean,
Sure.
I think he's promised that McGuffey Lane won't come back for a little while anyways. But, I love John
So-
Schwab, but
Yeah, I mean, joining with him, but I would still want people to help with it. So you guys kind of think about it, let me know, 'cause it's a lot for,
It is.
you know, to do.
What kind of commitment would we be, because I can't sign up for anything else,
Yeah,
without talking to my
Well,
wife,
I got the same.
It all
I got the same
depends, because
thought.
now if we're gonna join it with the car show, I don't really know what it will all entail.
Okay.
So why don't I get with,
Jimmy and myself.
yeah, get with them, talk about it, and then kind of circle back.
Okay.
And what would they accept? Like I don't again
Right.
I don't want to detract from that. I would
No,
certainly
no.
would just want to bring an additional component. It's like, any thoughts there? It's like, hey, look, what could we
Yeah,
add on to it either before or after, whatever the
Yeah.
the thing is that
You can add on George, because it's from like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
People start coming about 1,
yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
from like
last year
1
we had a
until 9
farmer's
at
market
night.
that morning.
it's perfect.
And I'll tell you what, if we could do that
It's in the
again,
evening.
those people made a killing, all of them.
Mhm.
Because we had baseball, car
Yeah.
show was parking
Yes.
here and walking over. Pick 'em up Joe ran out of coffee, the bank ran out of, small bills.
Our market is on that day, in
Okay,
the
so
morning.
could we maybe
Perfect.
get, the food trucks to come in for that?
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like a situation where it's truly going to be the
Celebration,
event
right.
that we can say, this is the type of
Yeah.
community event that we want. And now that we're all controlling it, everybody has input, this is what we can do. Is there any chance you could get a ballpark cost over the time that you're working with them? So we can
Yes.
at least know, are we
Yes.
looking at
I know a lo-
10,000, 50,000?
I know a lot of like the Daughters of the Revolutionary War, and then there's another one. They don't charge. They're donation only. I mean, of course, we would want to do something,
Well, we
but-
would have to watch because
right.
we
I know.
adopted the no
But-
money thing.
I mean, personally, it doesn't keep us personally from,
Right. Absolutely,
Donate.
and I'd have no problem with that if that's legal.
but
I mean, to donate personally, I just,
yeah. But there's things that they, like George Washington, they come dressed up all like that and walk around. I think it'd just be a really cool thing. So, but I'll work
Yeah,
on that.
if
and
there's
get
some
with you
ideas or
guys.
thoughts, and you can, for expedited purposes, if you want to email, then we can discuss it for the next, if there's any ideas that we need to discuss, yeah.
Yeah.
Just so we can move the ball.
Yeah, we'll have it done by
Okay,
then. I'll
cool.
meet with them before
Perfect.
then.
All right.
Yep, that's all I had.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right,
Good
thank
idea.
you. Okay, upcoming legislation, I don't have any first readings for the upcoming council meeting unless something comes in before then. So Eric, the reason why we have the 3 components that you have here for your resolution number 14, 2026, and ordinance 2026, 13, and 2026, 14. Do you want to speak any specifics on this? One thing I would say is why the resolution, explain why we're doing the resolution that tees up the 2 ordinances.
okay. So, it's taken me about 28 months, but finally I realized that the resolutions are the direction from council to the administration of the plan we want done. And you can operate just on resolutions. If the resolutions don't work out, then you put the enforceable ordinance. In things like this, I was, through the legislative process, I was advised that in this instance, it's probably good to do both, so that we're not handing Nancy and the administration this convoluted plan without the text of how we expect it to be implemented and benchmarked, so that we can check accountability at certain days. So the resolution is the direction to administration of what all this means and our expectations for setting it up. And then it's the mayor's job to use all the village staff, however she feels, to put this into process. That's her job as daily, running everything. So the resolution is just the roadmap to put the 2 ordinances into practice. Matt, do I understand that correctly, or have I completely screwed that up?
I would have to write that down and figure out exactly what is
Is the resolution
right
the
the right
direction?
question. No, I mean, so there's different.
Actions, yeah, not
Yeah,
Resolutions
there's-
are actions, ordinances are your laws.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the resolution is just the actions that we need to be taken to put it into effect.
I believe so. Again, if you have more, if you have specific questions on that, let me look at it.
I
Because like
I
said,
really
don't.
don't, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't completely blowing it out of the
I don't-
water.
I think it's over. I will have to follow.
Yeah, no worries, no worries, I mean,
Yeah. Now, the 2026 13, the ordinance establishing the legislative process. Listen, I don't always see eye to eye with things that you have to say, but this one resonates with me because I think that I'm a, process and procedure type of person. So making sure, especially if we, as times go on, we have new council members, you have new mayor, these types of procedures and processes kind of transcend beyond the individual choices, but gives you something coming in as 4 new council members, being able to identify the process by which we follow to implement or initiate legislation. This type of process will help with that, with hopefully less burden, less questions of not only our administrative staff, but also our solicitor, right? Going back and forth because it's right there in person. The only question I asked Eric, if you would consider on each of these, the removal of the declaring an emergency.
absolutely,
Okay.
I only put it honestly because of you, Dee. You had told me that this is something that you thought should move through rather quickly, so I added it so that if it needs to be used, it's there. But like I told you, if any time it needs to be taken off, we'll take it off.
I think that in this particular case, it would, as we move forward, even for the June 1st, that would be something that
Yeah.
I would prefer that we.
And we could, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, we can, even at the last reading, we can vote to amend, we can vote to pass by removing the declaration of emergency and pass it as amended. So I wouldn't have to redo these, we could just remove it and then say we're gonna vote to pass it as amended. Is that correct?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
I don't
believe so,
communicate
yeah.
very well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but. So, yes, Dustin, that's something that even if I didn't want to, everybody up here could make happen without me.
Okay.
But I never put it on there unless somebody has said up here that they want this to move through faster.
Okay.
So thank you for asking.
Sure. Does anybody have any specific questions regarding this legislation, any of these altogether? The other thing I forgot, sorry, is you'd mentioned about tasking the administrative staff. I do have my concern with that, establishing the public transparency development registry. I keep coming back to that about adding undue burden to the administrative staff, right? That's where I keep coming, how do we get around that?
Well, all I can say is I ran this through 4 different AI models, and it said it adds 8 minutes to 11 minutes total for each time something goes through to the processes that are already used. I uploaded our process now, I uploaded this, I said estimate the time for both, and the 4 different models, it was either 7 to 11 or 6 to 10. Minutes total, over and above what they do now, for the entire process, not each entry. I can only go off of what the AI models told me. If it comes out that it's too much, that's when we come back here and we figure out how to fix it.
Okay.
You had mentioned that there were some legal changes that you've been advised to make to the legislation, and just like regarding
Legal changes.
some legal had given you some advice on making some changes to legislation.
That was all before you guys got them.
Okay.
There has been no changes other than what we've discussed tonight
Okay.
to any of those. I haven't even opened the files, honestly, since they were transmitted. And I won't open them again because nothing we've discussed tonight, I need to open them. So we'll just, whatever you want amended, we'll amend, and then we'll pass it as amended.
And that one thing, if I'm with the justification, I don't think that was part of the legislation. I think that was one of the components of the system, right?
No,
Is
I
that-
had an actual.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, I had the resolution So, because we were changing the process, so I used the resolution that was the new instruction to administration to take this exact form, and it must be, I think it said it shall be with the cover page, and then the emergency justification on the back if the emergency language is used. Don't quote me on that, I believe that's what it said, but I will absolutely revisit it.
Okay.
Am I supposed to bring that one back?
What's
The
that?
emergency justification?
No, that's right. I was just asking if that was a
Oh.
change.
Okay.
I just wanted to be clear on that. That's all I had on each of those 3 items. Anybody else? You do?
Yeah, I have a
Trish?
question,
Sure.
so, taking an extra 8 minutes, I'm not for sure who would take this task on in the office. I don't know what your bandwidth is.
I think it's Dave
But-
would be most of it.
If it's 8 minutes, I mean, if it's 4, that's 32 minutes. If it's 10, it's 80 minutes. So I mean, I don't know what your workload is. I would just ask that, you know, if this does get passed, that we just take into consideration someone's current workload, what their bandwidth is, and are we gonna have a part-time person to do this? Because at Pickaway, if we're growing the way we're growing with a comprehensive plan, this could end up being a 20-hour-a-week job or a 40-hour-a-week job. I mean, so I'm just saying, we just have to take that into consideration when we're adding to someone's workload.
Or maybe the councilman down there would
Well,
dedicate some of his personal time.
I can say that I think we're already at the point, and council has offered several times to bring in another person to take the workload. But until the people that are in those positions will accept that help, we just haven't. Because with the cybersecurity stuff coming in and all this other stuff, we have enough probably for a part-time person if the people that already worked here only did the jobs they were hired for. But I have found at least 5 positions that we're supposed to have that are in legislation that we don't use. We just ask people to do for the same money. So that's something that I've struggled with, and I know Jay has struggled with, and I dang sure know the mayor has struggled with as a council member, is if we're asking people to do multiple things, but they're only getting paid as this one, how's that right? And we've always been told, well, we just haven't gone back and removed them because that's how it's always been. So I hear you, and I agree. I think somebody will need to be hired.
Yeah, I think what I said back then when it came up in budget is that they, and I think Wendy echoed that, they don't feel that they need another person right now. That's what I remember saying.
But then we started adding stuff, and that's when we said, hey, we need more people because we can't get everything done that we had. I mean, like trying to download the old files, we had to hire somebody for that.
We get to download into the cloud, yeah, we had a summer person
Oh,
come in here.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but there was other things, I mean, that only the receptionist and only Wendy can do, and they don't have time to do it. And,
What haven't they done?
well, it's not that they haven't done it, but,
Okay.
I mean, I drive by here 10 times a day, she's here
She'd live here
every
if
single
you'd let her.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
She
That's
chooses
true.
to stay here.
That's what I'm saying, but she's not here because she wants to be here, she's here because she's working.
I'd rather do it myself than have, because I'm ultimately responsible for it anyways. So I would rather do it myself than, I mean, Paula does a fantastic job.
But I used to think that was the right way to do it too, do it myself. But I found out I can't always do it myself, and if something happens to me, then I don't have anybody to do the job. So I ended up having to hire people, whether I liked it or not. I supervised them and watched what they did, but I still had to hire people.
So I have a question on this program. Is this something we're going to be purchasing as a package?
Well, I don't
Is
know.
this, I mean, how do we
That's-
get
Yeah,
to
cause I
this
checked with
point?
Civic and it's,
Okay, then that's
$12,000
administration. You
a
tell
year.
us if Civic doesn't have it, then we have the website built to put on ours. I mean, I have ones already built that I can show, as an option, but yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some cost to this one way or the other. Either somebody's gonna have to do the website, which honestly isn't that much, and, or Civic Plus, if they don't have a
Civic
plugin.
Plus has it, they said it's 12 to, and I said this at the last meeting, I believe.
Yeah.
12 to 14,000 for setup, and then it's $7,000 a year. And they told me they thought we needed to just get used to our new website before we added anything, is what they,
And I think by the time this were to roll out, I think we're at that point where, especially with not with the emergency language, we may be several months if that's the case anyhow. So I don't know when the new website rollout is
Already
looking.
working on it.
Okay, perfect, great, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this could be something, if you look at, would the earliest we should consider this would be the first of the year. Actually, with any type of implementation, is that correct? At
I
minimum.
think I put benchmarks of
Okay.
90, 120, and 180, so 6 months minimum
Mhm.
was just the random expectation that I put, hoping if you guys wanted to shorten them or long them, or lengthen them, we would do that.
Okay.
But I just put a starting point that I felt was, pretty average.
I'm sorry, it was 12,000 and 7,000 a month.
A year.
A year.
To start
7,000 a year.
7,000 a year. It's 12 to 14 grand to get it up and running, and then it's $7,000 a year, in addition to whatever we're paying for the website per year. Which don't ask me off the top of my head. but
I'm
that's-
sorry,
Like 6,000.
I'm a processor.
6,000.
So I'm just processing.
Yeah, so,
So 7,000 a year
yeah,
to basically maybe a possible Excel spreadsheet.
right,
Okay, thank
right.
you. You're welcome.
Okay, next one, due to third reading, we have, resolution 08/2026, resolution approving the major site plan application for Skanell Properties, lot 8. Any questions, issues we bring up on that?
This is that redo, right? They had to come back because time ran out. Yeah, so.
So just so you guys know, June meeting, you're gonna be getting a major site plan for lot 10.
Okay.
Jim and Dave went through that major site plan, that's another Skanell lot.
Is that the one
Long
on
ways.
the north?
Civil one right, just south of Durham Road.
Yeah, okay.
So that will be coming in for June 1st for a first reading. And then you will also be getting, like the gentleman said, from Foxfire, the development plan for Foxfire Phase 5 or Foxfire Court, whichever you want to call it. Those will both be coming into you for first reads on June 1st.
What is the zoning on that? Do you know? The Foxfire 5, what's the
I think
zoning?
it's PRD or
Okay.
PUD, one
Okay.
or the other. They're dropping me off new books because this was presented a while back. And
Okay.
there's 4 new members. Eric and Jay, you guys should still have your books. It should say Foxfire North on the binder. But the rest of you will be getting them. I'll put everything in your mailboxes later on this week.
Can you, are those, did they send those to you digitally as well?
I can ask them to as well.
If you would, just so, 'cause I'm sure I have it, but, I mean, the stacks.
Well, you're probably gonna get a new book anyways if you told me to drop them off tomorrow.
Okay, so we have 3 items for tabled legislation. We heard from the gentleman from MI Homes, so we have subdivision phase 4, part 3, that is currently tabled up for a third reading. Any further concerns on this one other than what was spoken today and questions answered? Any issues with this one?
What are our feelings about approving residential
Construction in the immediate vicinity of the data center while the data center moratorium is in place.
It'd be pretty hypocritical if we did, correct? Considering, I mean, the reason we're put the moratorium on it because we don't feel it's safe, and if you're going to actually approve homes, you're being hypocritical.
So what's that proximity that we feel is like,
I mean,
that we're
I
comfortable
don't know, I mean, we gotta look for something scientific. It says, okay, it's out 1 mile, it's out 3 miles, it's out 5 miles, and get a radius so you know how far the data center is going to create a problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, I said it last time, we just heard earlier in the meeting that we're gonna be sued. So, my thing is, we go to litigation, they're saying it's a public nuisance, but you're still allowing us to build houses? What kind of leg does that give us to stand on?
I think my question is, can we stop it? This, because it's already gone through technical review, right, Matt? So what are the reasons, and actually, this might be a administrator question. What are the reasons that we can turn down one of these after technical review? Is that a you question or a solicitor question?
Not me.
No, not me. I would have to look into that though. That's a much more complicated legal question that I could just
And I
answer.
think that's the one we really gotta have before we make a decision, because if like some of the other plans, we can only deny if they don't meet certain standards, is this one different? Or is this one,
Well, it's already in zoning, right? It's already went through 3 readings of the final
and
plat.
it's done technical review?
Right, so what would be the reasoning for not moving forward with
Oh,
it?
that's what I was asking,
That's
see.
where I think we need to make sure that is correct. It's gonna be a much different stage than actually going through a rezoning, right? Because,
Yeah,
we
this
have
is
we have
late,
a lot
I
more,
mean,
this, correct. And that's where I think we need to be cautious, but you're not wrong with your question.
The landowner, I mean, he indicated that he's not only willing to continue to proceed in spite of the data center being there, but to actually continue to build houses even closer to the potential data center site. So, I think that puts us in a bit of a bind from that perspective. So I do think that we need to probably keep it tabled until we have better direction as a body on what that proximity is and how far that extends.
Well, and
And
the
if we even
ramifications.
The ramifications.
The ramifications would be I feel like the bigger, I mean, just another one to get in line.
Yeah, we're gonna get-
Again,
Just another lawsuit, right?
So
Is
this has
there-
already gone through technical review group, the walkthrough has already been done. With this final plat not being approved, they can't sell the lot in that phase. That's where we're at right now. That's when they come to you for their final plats, is once that final plat is signed and approved, they can start selling the lots
Is there a
in that
timeframe?
phase.
involved, is there a time frame involved in this one? It's in the major site plan, are we under any time restraints, or can we keep it tabled? I know we have 30-day windows, 60-day windows, 120, is this one in any of those?
I will have to look, I don't know if there's a time frame on that or not.
I thought that after it went through technical review, those timeframes were done, so.
Basically, all the infrastructure's in place, ready to go.
Right, so the engineers already went and looked, and they've done their punch list for up to this point. And then the next punch list will be after they get done building, and it's the final for us to say that everything's good.
They're ready to build houses.
are we able to get a verification on that before June 1st? Yeah, before we can, so we know whether we can, how to proceed with that. Thank you. If we're good with that one, next up, ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance to rezone 110 acres within the village of Commercial Point from exceptional use to planned unit district and adopting the preliminary plan development standards for text for a planned district. This is the estates at Scioto Crossing that we heard some folks from that we have some questions regarding the traffic study that we have to, and any changes that we had suggested or asked for previously, we have not received. So any comments or?
This is the same one as the ordinance above.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that if we're gonna hold one, you might as well hold the other. I can't remember though, did we table this, or did you guys?
They requested it, that's why. I said-
Are you guys gonna take it, are you guys looking to take it off on the 1st, or is this something we don't really even have to be talking about right now?
We have made some significant modifications to the plan as recommended by council. And we were ready to present those changes or modifications to the plan, as well as part of this evening's presentation was just the introduction of the potential of a TIP discussion coupled with the NCA. So at this point, we don't need to take it off the table. We can leave it until maybe some further discussions is held. I don't think there's any rush to bring this to some type of vote immediately, as long as council is fine with us leaving the table
Yeah,
right now.
I think we would prefer that. If
I
you're
think,
good with
I think
it.
with the questions that arose here, we don't want to be in a situation that is not of your making, that we all have concerns
Yeah.
with bringing things forward and throwing off timelines where we may not need to.
Understood.
And I wanna say personally, thank you for reading the room and what's going on in the environment and taking that into consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate the comments, I appreciate the consideration that was, that's been done so far. I think just importantly is that I did hear the one comment about putting some type of amendment in the agreements, purchase agreements, lot purchase agreements. We've discussed before, we would have no issue with identifying the zoning, the actual zoning at the time, in and around the 1 mile radius and having our customers sign off on that. It saves us a lot of commentary down the road.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
integrity.
Yes,
I
thank you,
appreciate
Jack.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate that.
Like I said, it's very self-serving, but I appreciate this.
Jack, do you have a problem leaving it on the table until we have a chance to look at the updated traffic study? And
I don't believe so. I'll talk to our seller again. We're the third party buyer on this one, but Mike left and we'll have a conversation tomorrow morning.
I mean, because last time it was, 4 million, and we didn't know what they were doing to move forward. I just think it's fair this time that we have all that known beforehand, and since we're so late in the process,
Sure.
the next step is approval.
I absolutely, and I appreciate the discussion on the TIF as well as the NCA as a vehicle and in terms of financing this and then putting that, so it's not on the back of the village or of the current residents.
And that was a big concern, as you heard, because you had both of you had other things going on, the first time through, and we just don't want to repeat that process and disappoint a landowner again, when he's making a second run and has done a lot different. I mean, it's so far better than it ended last time in my eyes. Not saying it's a great thing,
I understand.
but I'm just saying we're far better, so,
Well, I appreciate that. I also appreciate the village's position right now with the referendum and then also just the fact that you've got trying new development that's coming through and then just the potential, what messaging is being sent about the village beyond the village as well, which can also be a
Well,
plus.
personally, I'm glad you're our partner through this because you've been with us for so dang long
Appreciate that.
that you have roots here and you don't want to upset those roots, I'm sure.
Well, seen quite a bit and we'll continue to grow with you all. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Do
sir.
you guys have an ETA on the traffic study yet?
I did, and I'll check with Mike. He was trying to show me some information on the MOU and the traffic study while we were sitting back here, and internet wasn't good, so we couldn't figure out.
Welcome to our rural community,
Yeah.
Cole.
Okay, the last tabled ordinance is ordinance 2026-11 was the planning commission. I asked to table this last time to make some corrections that we brought up. The biggest concern, I sent you the red line items of the items that were previously changed. One of the biggest ones was the idea of having 2 council members on the commission and then the appeals from those going back to council and having those same 2 in that option. So I identified those as a potential conflict. Still didn't want to remove the council members' roles potentially up to 2. I didn't indicate just 2, could be up to 2, more of as an advisory, but not necessarily voting members of the planning commission. So to have that buy-in from council in that process, but not voting on it, that way if there is an appeal, those individuals, 1 or 2 individuals, would then be free to hear that and not necessarily vote on that process. So that was the biggest issue of changing that as it was brought forth through the process.
Dustin, when you were originally going through that and asked my opinion from being in the process, there was something that I came across of a possibility of maybe naming 1 council member as a non-voting chair.
Good.
So that it would still be, the meeting would be to our standards through that chair, but they don't necessarily have to vote.
I wouldn't see that I left that broad because the commission could certainly elect one of those council members on the chair, the co-chair, or the secretary. So it's not just planting that. Let that commission make that decision. and say, hey, look, you know, if you're willing to do that as a council member and you want to serve as, then allow that for the commission. So yes, that's not off the table. So
My position is if you're comfortable with it, this is your baby, then I'm comfortable with it.
I want to make sure when you got, Bill said he would take one final look at it to make sure that it's what we had talked about, and make sure that it'll be submitted on June 1st. So
Emergency
That's the plan.
language or not?
none. Nope. Okay. If there's any other questions on that, let me know. Additional business?
I do, and I'll make it quick, and I'm just doing it today because
That's
June
okay.
1st will be too late.
Yes,
I-
okay.
I don't know what you're reading, but I do want you to know, I saw on Facebook, nothing's been recorded, so if we have it on our database to
it's-
post it.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Just so
know
you know
why,
that.
Dion was just here, but
Well,
I'm recording
people
it
have
to
been-
the hard drive.
Yeah, so like, I don't know if there's a way for us to
We
turn
can.
around and post it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
he
I
told me to
saw.
call him afterwards, I don't know if I'll do it tonight,
Okay.
but first thing in the morning.
Okay, just one.
I just wanted to read this letter that was given to me. Effective May 31st, 2026, this is from Jim Kozelka. I am resigning from my position as village zoning director due to part to medical issues. This is not the only reason for my departure, and what follows may be difficult to hear, but I believe it needs to be said. I have served this village for 37 years and have witnessed its growth from the first Carmel Court subdivision to West Scioto Green and beyond. The village once followed a slow, methodical pattern of growth, but that has changed and issues we face have become more complex. Some council members say they want to protect their constituents, but the entire village is their responsibility, not just the area they represent. Others believe they have all the answers, yet we continue to fall short on resolving key issues. It is acceptable to have an agenda as long as it is your own and not influenced by someone intent on dividing the village or creating conflict and injustice within the community. This decision should be based on all the facts, not just the perspective of one individual. Do your research, then make a decision that's truly in the best interest of the village. Listening to sound reasoning and exercising good common sense are essential parts of what you were elected to do. Remember that the decisions made today will shape the future of this village for years to come. It has been my pleasure to be a part of Commercial Point's growth and to work alongside a great group of people. Sincerely, Jim Kozelka. Since it's effective May 31st, I have to say today. That's all I have.
I have a couple things. One, it was kind of mentioned earlier during the special meeting as well as in a Facebook post about the moratorium, adding the intent clause and it not being legit because of that. That is false. You can add any intent clause before it is passed. If it is passed, then you have to then go back and vote on an amendment to the moratorium or whatever was passed. Because it was not passed and it was added before that, it is in fact legit. I'm also quickly, I want to address the fact of the gifts and the letter with Alan, the old mayor. There's rumblings, tons of it in the community, about council members taking gifts, spending vacations at Billy Scala's, getting golf carts from Keevan Hill, different things of that matter. I know there's a 12-page AI explanation out there for it, but Eric, I'm just gonna ask you publicly, because last time I asked you not publicly, it turned into something that you didn't tell everybody the truth about. So I'm going to ask you in front of people, what was the phone call you received that you text the township trustee promising them a ladder truck?
Yeah, I've addressed this online and I've never hidden from it. I mean, before I got started, there was a crash in front of my house. The assistant fire chief and the fire chief were there. I went out and introduced myself. I mean, I knew Neil because my wife had his kids. And I said, what do you feel the Commercial Point has not done correct for you? And he said, you guys have built all these warehouses and we have no truck to fight a fire in the middle of the roof. I said, well, within the next 4 years, I will get you a ladder truck as a part of one of these developments. And that next meeting, when Bill Scala and Bruce Moore walked in, I said, the next thing you develop or build, it's gonna have to include a ladder truck because they feel that they were wrong. And if you can't do that, then I can't get behind nothing.
Is the data center the first development that they've built or introduced?
Yeah,
Isn't Scannell Properties Billy's?
I don't know the answer to that. No, I didn't think that that was him.
So what was the phone call you received? Who was it from?
It was from Bill Scala.
So you are having conversation, let me
go ahead.
finish. You are having conversations with the developer, making promises and semi-deals because you're texting of official elected officials for the township, promising them something that none of us agreed upon. Let me finish, please.
No, I
That
didn't
none of us
promise.
agreed. I have the message. You
I know.
absolutely
and
did.
You know what? Whoever texted you during that is worried about
No one
securing the truck
texted me
for
during
Friday.
anything.
Somebody from
you know
South
how,
Carolina said they needed the truck for Friday because I called the number on your phone
what are
that
you
showed at the
talking
top.
about? The number? What are you talking
Look at
about?
what you posted.
There's
Top,
no
there's a
number from South Carolina. That is from a township trustee from you.
Right, you look at
From
your, and
you.
I posted the screenshot from my phone.
From
Yes.
you. That is from, who was it to? Who was the message to? You know who it
That
was
was
to.
to Ralph Wolf.
Yes, it was.
And you know what?
So why would Ralph Wolf make that up? You're saying that's
He's not
you're
making
saying
it.
it's falsified?
No.
Then what are you talking
Is it
about?
not my? Maybe you don't understand your job, Courtney.
Oh, I understand my
Yeah,
job.
I'm gonna call point of order. This is getting a little too heated and not
It
not
needs
beneficial.
to be in public because everyone up here feels this way about this man and we're all sitting here tense and we never talk about it. Nobody thinks that what you're doing is appropriate. The community doesn't, we don't. It's unethical and immoral. And it needs to stop.
Has anybody filed a complaint?
Yeah,
Listen,
there has been a complaint filed. Yes,
That's
there
fine.
has. Absolutely.
That's fine. The golf cart, my son financed through a company $11,000. He did buy it from Keevan Hill. If he wants to share that, nothing was given to me. Brandon's aware of it. Brandon's father-in-law is probably aware of it because his daughter deals with it. Nothing was given. I've gotten nothing from Bill Scala. I made a promise.
You didn't go stay at his house in
I
Florida
don't even know
because
where
your
the hell he lives.
stepfather is the one that told other council members
I don't
that
even
you
know.
went and stayed at Billy's house in Florida.
I don't even know Billy had a house in Florida. I mean, listen, I don't have to defend myself, but I will. Because I haven't done anything wrong. What I did was I went out, everybody was complaining that the township hasn't been made whole. Even Ralph Wolf said, well, they need to work together. So I said, your guy told me you need a ladder truck. If anybody comes in with any CRA or TIF, I'm gonna say, we need a ladder truck. And I looked at those two in this chamber. They came up and shook everybody's hand and I said, a ladder truck must be bought for the township for the next thing you do. So when they were doing that, he called me to say, I've made good on what you asked for after he told me they were filing the major site plan. So it's simply what I was elected to do.
Well, during March, when you sent that, during that time period, you were actually telling council members, including the president, that you were in conversations with AWS at the time. So now you're saying it was a conversation from Billy. That is, you said you could produce somebody from AWS to come tell us all these amazing things. That never happened. I knew it would never happen.
It was going to.
Billy was jockeying. Billy left the emails up there. He was, guess what? There was no fire truck in the agreement, just so you know. None.
The
So
phone
if
call
Billy
happened.
called you and lied to you
Okay.
to try to get you to whatever, but the matter is, I don't think the community or us think we're not comfortable with that. We're not having private side conversations with the developers. We're not.
They're not. That's
We're
what
not.
you do. If a politician or elected official doesn't have those conversations and only do stuff in this room, then you're not doing
We
your
don't.
due
We didn't
diligence.
we had a meeting with Billy Scala.
Yeah.
I want to say this last thing. You can have conversations. Me and Dustin were not comfortable with having private conversations with Billy. We met with him. Wendy was there. Dave was there, Nancy was there, in the back room here. There are a way to go about conversations and a way to not go about them. And some of the things that are being put out are half-truths. So if you're gonna tell a story, do please make sure you tell the whole story.
Listen,
That's
I've
all
put
I'm
out
gonna say.
everything and I've seen nothing
Can I
from
get a
anybody
motion to
else up
adjourn?
here that says otherwise. So if I've put out no fact, then prove it to me, please. That's all I've asked for.
I just
Okay,
busted
okay.
one out.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, she wanted to say something.
A couple things. Is it okay?
Yeah,
But if
we,
you
we
want,
just have a second right now, we haven't voted on it.
okay.
Yes.
A couple things. I'm new, so I'm gonna ask the question. Do I have the ability to go out and talk to people to make conversations and discussions without Nancy's permission or the solicitor's permission?
We'll need to follow up just because when you say there's a lot that I would
That-
need.
that-
There's a lot
I-
of context there
Okay. thank you.
that is not.
Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, I just want to let everyone know, for everyone's protection in this room, by June, I'm going to bring up some legislation that the police officers, I would like for them to have a wand metal detector. Because I think if we feel someone needs to be wand to come in here, I would like that. So I'm going to bring that up. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a roll?
Who motioned it?
I did.
Eric?
You motioned
I
it,
You
motioned
motioned it.
and
Jay
Jason.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?